An interception. Lino Rosso. What a remarkable drive, man. That's an all-American drive right here.
It's not exactly unwarranted. Like, when you have a guy that's that electric.
The legend himself, the GOAT, Dre Crowell.
Where my warm bottle movement at?
That kills your argument right there.
Anything can happen. This game is not over. What's good, Relocation Football League fans? It's your boy Smitty, and you see from the title, we back. We back, and we got a new guest on the show right now. Help call the game with me. Yesterday, my boy got his mic finally fixed, though. I don't know what's going on yesterday, but we figured out the problem, so hopefully we'll have him on. But Coach Dunn is on the podcast with us. How you doing, my guy? And of course, we got Bill. Can't leave out Bill. How y'all doing, man?
Good. I was talking through a wind tunnel. I wanted to test the waters. I wanted to make sure everyone appreciated I sounded terrible, so that way I could appreciate when I don't sound terrible moving forward. How's that?
That's pretty good, man.
There you go. And I'm glad to be back. It feels like it's been like 2 or 3 months since I've been on this thing.
Yeah, no. But hey, we are back, and we usually have our long segments with recapping games. That's the first thing we're doing. We're going to recap week 12. After we recap week 12, you guys are going to see the top 25 of the final week that we're about to head into. Then, of course, we're going to look at the schedule. We got the top 100. We got a whole lot of stuff to talk about, and we're going to be covering 30 more players of the top 100, getting all the way to 50. So we're going from 80 to 51. We're also going to have debates just to talk about. We're going to be talking about, and Dunn has talked about this on his own podcast a couple of times, talking about transfers, our thoughts on people trying to transfer, and things of that nature. So it's going to be a lot of information today. Make sure you guys tune in early because we're going to start this one with the games this week. And so this is how we're going to do it. Those are all the scores right there from this past week's game. We're going to go in order from left to right, top to bottom, and just talk about the games quickly instead of just, diving all the way in depth, which usually it takes us about an hour or longer to get past that. And I know guys want to hurry up and get to that next segment. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start with the first game that kicked off week 12. It was Oklahoma State versus Oregon. And Oregon absolutely handled business in this one, 38-19. I expect this. Oklahoma State's been in quite a bit of close games and a lot for a majority of this season, winning by a possession or less. But it's starting to really separate now. They're getting down in the dumps. The morale is down, and Oregon, just handled business as they should. Now they're bowl eligible. They had a 6-6 record last season with Owen, Jack, and those guys. Went to a bowl game and won. And so, Jack Wargo looking to do the same. The guy had 4 touchdown passes in this game, and they were absolutely lighting it up. And they come out on top here, 38-19. Thoughts on this one, anybody?
Oh, my first takeaway here is, which Oregon team are we going to get on a week-to-week basis? Because it wasn't that long ago where we were talking about Oregon and possibly having the best running back in the college series and Justin, the real deal Creel, and all of the accolades and the attributes and the most yards rushing in a single game ever in college series history. And all that stuff was great. And then a couple weeks ago, they play Washington and they look flat. Can't really move the ball on offense. You can blame it on the poor weather game. You blame it on whatever you want. But then this week they go out against Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State's not juggernaut. They're not, they're not going to win any records, or they're not, setting any records. But to put up 38 points on Oklahoma State, that's kind of where I think about a month or a month and a half ago we were expecting to see this Oregon team on a more consistent basis. I think we kind of expected Oregon to be that team with USC to fight for the Pac-12. I believe at one point Oregon got up to number 10 or maybe even number 9 in the country. And at this point, we just can't trust Oregon on a weekly basis. So it was nice to see them put up 38 points, but now they've got one more game to finish out the season. That game's going to come against Penn State. I'd be curious to see what they do against Penn State, because Penn State's another team that's not a great team. So you would expect Oregon and the ground game and Justin Creel to be able to perform well in that game. I wouldn't be surprised if they lay an egg and they're flat, because that's what they've proven to be, is inconsistent.
Well, that he said it all right there, man. But it's same thing for me, man. Like I've been saying it for a while. Sometimes we think we've seen something great with Oregon and Justin Creel goes off, but then it's other times where they just come out flat or they just don't really show what we expect them to see on a week to week basis. So, and there's gonna be a few teams like that are just up and down, up and down. You can't really count on them week in and week out, but they do have the talent. So, I mean, you said that yourself. They're bowl eligible now. We'll see what happens, but they do have to find some more consistency if they want to make a nice run here at the end.
And I want to give a shout out to the guys who donated at $9.99 each. Darnell, I said Darnell, that's his second submitted player, but Darius Hodge with the $9.99 says small little donation for the pod being back. Shout out to you. And we had another one from Omari Harris Jr. saying league first. I don't have. I was trying to have the thing where you can have the comments pop up, but right now that's not working, but it's all good. But yeah, like you guys were saying, I mean, very inconsistent Oregon team. And this was a huge win for them regardless, because this is a game that they had to win. Most likely they're going to win anyway, but this still keeps their Pac-12 hopes alive, because even though they lost to Washington, as you can see from the score here, got the doors blown off of them by Bama. And so now they are both 6-5. Of course, Washington's going to be ahead in the conference right now with a 6-5 record, but it's all about record first in the RFL College Series. So for that reason, if Oregon is able to win next week and Washington loses, then we got Oregon playing USC in the Pac-12 Conference Championship. And even though, hey, they're not playing for a national championship, who knows? What if they go in the Pac-12 and end up upsetting USC? That would be something crazy to do right there. But no team has really shown to be any match for USC in the Pac-12. Oh, you never know, man. Conference championship games get crazy, but big win there by Oregon. We move on to the next game. Everyone just about knows, hey, this is the number one team in the country. It's been for a few weeks. Miami, getting by 10 points over Texas. We know that their offense at times can be, stagnant. I wouldn't say that the offense was really bad. We seen Kadavion Polk, scramble a little bit. He ran in for a touchdown. I think he had like 3 carries for like 5 yards, so he wasn't really doing too much. Darnell Hodge, almost 100 yards on the day. He got in the end zone. Also, has been a receiving threat out of the backfield. He just do it all type of back there for Miami. I think he had, like I said, 98 yards in that game. And, Texas, they literally didn't score any of their points until the fourth quarter. It was a shutout for 3 quarters for Miami. But Miami, I mean, we expected that. This, in my opinion, even though the statistics aren't going to say because of yards that they are the best defense in the series, everyone knows when you watch Miami, they are probably the best defense in the series, because they just do such a great job of stopping teams from getting anything going offensively, and they can score defensively as well. As Bill likes to say, defense wins championships.
Yes, sir.
Hey, well, I see this could be a case right here for Miami, which we'll talk about later on. But what's you guys' thoughts on this game?
So my initial thoughts are that you said Miami has the best defense in the college series. I'm not going to disagree with that, but if I'm going to sit here and say that Miami has the best defense in the college series, which I mentioned last week on my show as well, how do you allow 20 points to Texas? Granted, a win is a win, and look, Georgia will tell you that a win is a win, and that's all that matters. But to give up 20 points to Texas is borderline garbage. They haven't won a game in their conference all season. They're 0-5 in the conference. And we've seen Miami dominate defensively against good teams. For them to allow Texas to score 20.
Before you go on, back to back that point a little bit, they did only score those 20 points literally in the fourth quarter. They were shut out.
Was it? All right.
Yeah.
All right.
They literally didn't do anything. The first 3 quarters got no points. So Miami definitely shut it down. I don't know what happened in the fourth, but hey, they shut them boys down for 3 quarters straight, no points.
Miami went back to the bus for a little bit to get the party started a little early, I guess.
He said he had to get a sip of the tea on that one.
That's it. I'll take my medicine. I'll be honest. I wasn't, I didn't set my alarm clock to watch Miami beat the crap out of Tennessee or Texas.
Yeah. But yeah, anything else other than that, you want to talk about in this game? Or
all I want to say is this, all right? They're saying some stuff in the chat, and
I haven't even been paying attention to what they saying, man.
I don't think that Miami deserves to be top 3. I think you guys do. All right, there you have it. I needed to see a little bit more first, but you guys are earning it. You guys are playing probably next to, one or two other teams, the most consistent team this college series. So I'll give you guys that.
And I'm going to talk about, this was a point that I had also about this game. Just what I was talking about a little bit. Does Miami seem to be the clear front runners for the national championship this year, in y'all's opinion?
What's that?
Does it seem like Miami at this point, like to you, do you feel like Miami has the national championship locked this season?
I don't think they have it locked. I mean, look, it wasn't West Virginia game was about one play away from being another Miami loss. So I can't sit here and say that Miami's a lock to win the national championship. West Virginia was very close. They were very close to winning that game. And I could easily see once we get to the Final Four, all the teams there are really good. Could I envision a scenario where Miami loses to Ohio State? Absolutely. I envision a scenario where they lose to West Virginia? Of course.
Ohio State's the best team, so I don't care what anybody says. I don't care that their losses are worse. All right, I don't care. I know the guys in the chat be like, "Oh, you just don't like us." No, I just truly believe that at the end of the day, if there is a team that can go toe to toe and beat every team in this series right now, if it's not Miami, it's Ohio State, and I have Ohio State just a little bit more higher. Still, so now you guys can hate on me.
I got your back, Bill, because you and I have both been big Ohio State proponents. I think that Ohio State's issue is that, similar to Miami's defense, Ohio State's offense starts to play a little bit lax once they get a lead. I mean, that game against Oklahoma, Ohio State should have won that game against Oklahoma, and they got a little tentative, they got a little soft, and Oklahoma was able to win on a last-second field goal. I agree 100%. I think Ohio State is right there with Miami, and I don't think West Virginia is very far behind either.
Well, moving on to the next game, ain't really too much to talk about. I don't even know why Bill wore this hat after this.
They challenged me in the chat
of a whooping that OSU put on you on the Badgers, man. 51-13.
Look,
what do you guys say about that, Bill? We let you go.
Look, first of all, okay, they said in the chat that, "Oh, look at you ain't wearing the hat," so I had to put the hat on. That's a rule. They called me out. Either I'm gonna answer the call or I'm gonna sit here and look like a you know what. So I put the hat on. That's all I gotta say. I don't want to talk about the game. I don't want to talk about the game.
Talk about the game. Well, but I mean, there's really nothing to say about the game. I mean, OSU just put a beat down on these dudes. We expected this. Is there anything you want to talk about with this game done?
I mean, this is Ohio State. Like, I don't understand why. I guess Bill and I are like the advocates for Ohio State here. I don't understand why people are having a hard time getting behind this team. Putting up 50 burgers on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
Like this isn't even a quarter pounder with cheese, okay? This is a half pounder with cheese. They're putting up a 50 spot regularly. You guys don't want to think that Ohio State deserves a shot to be in the same breath as Miami? Like, I don't know what games you're watching. Maybe the Ohio State contingent just isn't as vocal as the Miami contingent, but you're watching the games side by side. Ohio State deserves to be praised.
And we'll talk a bit more about, that when we get a look at the top 25 rankings. Ohio State, even though, they've looked great, they've taken some tough losses to teams that are in the top 4 area. So you guys already know where that's going. You guys will see off the top 25 where they rank. But would you guys say something about that?
Not about that, but Mitch, I know you're not in the chat talking about my egghead. I know you're not talking about my looks right now. You just stop it.
Say, chill out, Chewbacca.
Yeah, just relax.
So how you was looking on the podcast last time, my boy.
Yeah, you come on there looking like you just rolled out of a 5 o'clock shadow 4 days in a row without shaving, and with some big old glasses on and a half row coming out your head. So just calm down about looks right now, okay, Mitchie?
Oh, can we get a bell?
Do I have that story? I sure enough do.
Hey, you had to come for me in the podcast. I'm on here with the camera. Do it.
Said his beard is trimmed. But anyway, ASU versus FSU was the following game on the premiere days. Close game, 24-21, and Florida State is on the longest losing streak of the series. They dropped their 8th straight game in a row. This team at one point was 2-1. They lost their first game, but it was a very close game against Notre Dame. And even though Notre Dame has fell off a little bit and they're on a streak of losing as well, Florida State, we thought they would be better than this, maybe bowl eligible at least. But ever since going 2-1, they are now 2-9. And we already know about ASU. This is a very explosive offense. They're great at throwing the ball, huge playmaker, especially in Rashawn Hill. But tough loss. It was a good battle. But at the end of the day, FSU just simply not getting it done. We know how talented Amari Bone is, and just to talk about some statistics with him. Despite how terrible this team is doing, Amari Bone, 1,016 rushing yards this season off of 220 attempts, and 13th in the college series with this team, with a team that just simply can't seem to get anything right except for Bone, and he's also been a receiving threat out the backfield. A big question I would have to ask, because I don't feel like it's too much to talk about with this game, of course, because these are two low-end teams, ASU 3-8, Florida State 2-9. But what do you guys feel? Do you feel like Amari Bone, when we talk about transfers, we'll talk more about that. Do you feel like this is a back that should potentially look at transferring elsewhere, or do you think there might be a chance that people come to Florida State to help build around him?
So I'm going to go.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm going to go with the latter there. And I've been firm in my belief that schools like Florida State, Arizona State, Auburn have 0 user submitted players or 1 user submitted player, need to get more guys. And when you see a guy like Amari Bone put up numbers, and granted, yeah, you said it's me, like he started off hot. At one point we were talking about him as the best running back in the college series, and then he kind of went flat for about 3 or 4 weeks. You mentioned the losing streak. They haven't been playing well. But if, let's say, for example, a submitted player transferred from the quarterback position, Florida State, I think Florida State's offensive attack is better suited than some of these other schools. I think Florida State offensively has a better scheme, runs better plays. They just don't have the personnel to succeed at the level of some of these other schools. So I don't want to see Amari Bone transfer from Florida State. I want to see some of these other guys, and I don't know if that's Amari Harris, and I don't know if that's Keno Thetford. And personally, I don't think they're going to, because they just want to chase the school that has all the other guys, and I get that. But I really would like to see a handful of guys transfer to some of these schools that don't have anybody. I don't want all the good talent at the schools with no submits to go elsewhere, because then we're just going to end up with an even more top-heavy class next year.
I think that Florida State is definitely a well-known enough school where it can draw people to the school, and I think the fact that we know Amari Bone is good and works in Florida's system, we don't necessarily, and I'm not saying he wouldn't, because a lot of the times a really good running back is going to work wherever they go, but depending on the scheme, he might not work in another system. He might not be as good as he is in Florida State. So I think what the real thing is, we need guys to come in and go to Florida State. And somebody, please, for the love of everything holy, get that man out of the starting quarterback spot. I don't like him anymore. I never have. I never will. Will Stern needs to go bye-bye. We need a new quarterback in there. If you get a new quarterback, maybe a receiver or something in there, Amari Bone, that guy could go for 2,000 in a year if he has the good team around him.
Yeah,
And
you good.
I was going to say, I don't know. I like Christian Williams in the chat said something about me contradicting myself and players saying players should go to schools with no subs. And then I don't really know I'm firm in that. I think submitted players should go to these schools that don't have submitted players. That's my firm belief. I think that Amari Harris wants to shine. He doesn't think that he's doing it at TCU. I can promise you that he's not going to do it at Miami. Miami is not an
Let's
offensive
not dive
powerhouse.
too much into it because that like I said, we're gonna get into that topic a
Oh
little
yeah,
more about
that's
the transfer.
all right.
That's gonna be.
Oh yeah,
little,
yeah.
But yeah, you guys gonna hear the rest of that. That's for sure. Moving on, Michigan drops the ball to Maryland. This is a Big Ten conference loss. Maryland 3-8 on the season. These guys looking pretty terrible this season. Not pretty terrible. They have been terrible. Michigan, we've seen them battle with close games and the likes of Georgia. They barely lost that game by 3 points. I mean, these guys have put up some really great games this season, but this was a tough one to take, losing to Maryland literally by 2 points. But Maryland just looked like they simply just wanted it more than Michigan did, and then they just got it done. It was just a great job by the Terrapins. It's nothing really too much to say there, but how shocked are you guys about Michigan dropping this? And I do have some other points as well that I'll bring up after you guys answer that.
I mean, I'm shocked in the sense that I don't think Maryland's very good. I don't think Deshaun Jackson has been very good throughout the season. Michigan, despite all the criticism of Austin Briley and his awareness, he's played really well this year. So I'm shocked that Maryland was able to pull this off. But again, you could also chalk this up to a trap game. I mean, Michigan's looking at this game and they don't care about this game on their schedule. They're looking ahead to next week when they've got Ohio State. And we see that happen all the time. And I'm not surprised in that sense that maybe Michigan was just looking ahead to the Ohio State game.
Yeah, typical trap game. I also do I think Michigan has been playing really, really well, but as much as I like what they've been doing, I don't think that they're, at that level of teams where we're expecting them to win every single game like we are. Like some teams, you are shocked if they lose a game, period. You're shocked, they're going to win. They do it every week. I don't see Michigan there quite yet. They've been playing excellent, but if there was ever a team that was on the how can I put this? If there's ever a team that was more primed to make a push, right, in the better half of the teams that was going to lose a trap game, I'm not shocked that it's Michigan. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, and I guess like I said, the other question I had to talk about this, I said, so like Dunn said, they're looking forward to that Ohio State game. And Dunn, I know you had your little mishap on your podcast about the Big Ten Conference Championship. So everyone now at this point knows it's going to be Michigan versus Ohio State. So what does that mean? We know that they are going to be playing next week. So what does that mean? Back-to-back games. Week 13, Michigan plays Ohio State. Then in the conference championship game, they're going to play again. Do you think there's any chance of Michigan winning at least one of those games?
I don't think so.
I just don't.
I don't know, man. I don't think so.
Oh, that's all. There's nothing really too much to say. I'll talk about that. Me personally, I don't believe so as well.
Another thing here, and I'm sorry, but I keep going with the chat here because they're saying stuff, and I don't mind if people talk about Wisconsin, but I hate to break it to you, Keegan. Wisconsin's a whole state. It is not a town there, bud. I need you to take yourself back to social studies and get some extra credit homework and then come back and try to insult me again. Thank you.
Play the bell for you, Bill. Right on time. But yeah, so moving on to the next game. Once again, another game. I mean, at this point, two teams that literally are not playing for anything. No bowl game. Just looking to finish out the season strong. Texas A&M defeating Tennessee 26-22. Really, like I said, this is what we shorten this for. I don't feel we need to dive into too much of that. That's just a good victory right there by Texas A&M. Anybody got anything to say about that game? Or
no, I mean, I think the big playmaker for Texas A&M is the running back in Baaaack. I believe he's a generic, right? He's not a submit.
No, he's a submit, but he is
a submit.
He's about to be out of here, though. I haven't seen him check in or anything. So,
yeesh.
Okay. So, I mean, I've watched enough Texas A&M games this year to know that he's pretty much their guy on offense. I mean, they'll go as far as he'll take them. Tennessee is not very good. I mean, I talked about Texas and how bad they were. Tennessee is just as bad in the SEC. They're 0-7. So Oh, I think we were all shocked when Tennessee pulled that upset in that auto sim win that they were able to get over, what was that, West Virginia? But I mean, this is a snoozer.
Yeah, I don't have much to say. I mean, I would expect A&M to probably win this game, so it is what it is.
All right, moving on to the next game. Another blowout. Same deficit as the Wisconsin-Ohio State game. Bama,
Just had to say that again.
Yeah,
Huh?
I did. Bama washes Washington as expected, 51-13. Bama has been playing some really good football as of late, which has got me a little bit hyped though for the conference championship game, because obviously that's going to be a rematch once again between Georgia and Alabama again. So very, very much looking forward to that. And my boy Rocky Franklin, he's starting to get it a little bit in the. I mean, we know there's inconsistencies, but when he's on, he is on, and he was definitely on in this one. He was literally. It was, of course, there's more than one player picked for player of the week for offense and defense in the file, and I had to choose between them. I went with Calvin Poole for player of the week because the guy threw for over 500 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Granted, it's against UCLA. At the end of the day, I mean, that's ridiculous numbers. He only missed 5 out of 38 passes. And then Rocky Franklin, he threw, I think, for over 400 yards. And he also had himself 5 touchdowns in that game, but he threw some interceptions. So that's what knocked him off. He would have got that over Poole if had he not made those mistakes. But Bama's playing some good football, and because of that, I'm going to ask you guys, do you guys think at this point Bama has what it takes to best UGA in the second matchup in that SEC championship game?
I think Bama is peaking at the right time, which is what you want. I mean, you don't want the reason why Miami is so good right now is, they lost early, but they have just continued to win. They haven't lost since. What you really want to do is you want to play your best football towards the end of the season. And I think that Bama is doing that. Clearly, they did that last week. You can see they're dropping the 50 burger on the Huskies. I think that they could beat Georgia. I don't think that Georgia has the ability to blow out anybody. And certainly I don't think that they are going to blow out Bama. I think I would expect that SEC championship game to be very close, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was won late in the fourth quarter, under a minute left on a last-second field goal, whether that's Bama winning by a field goal or Georgia winning by a field goal. But I certainly think that Bama has a chance to win that game.
Yeah, I definitely think that Alabama has a very good chance of beating Georgia. But my only thing is it all really rides on Rocky Franklin. Like, that team is going to go as far as he's going to let them go. And we've seen before, even this week, a huge game. He had a big stat line, but he still had the turnovers. And granted, Georgia's defense might not be what it was last year, because I don't think we're going to see that for a very long time. That defense was a whole different story. But you still can't do all of those things against a team like Georgia. You just can't. So while I think they have a shot for sure, I do think that it's going to be tough, and they're going to need Franklin to play his A1 football, not B-, not A-. You need A+ football for this game. And if they get that, oh yeah, definitely I think they do, because they have a great defense themselves. So it'd be a really good matchup. I just hope that we get the best out of all the players for it to get the best, of course, matchup that we can.
All right, moving on to teams here that once again on the low end, not playing for anything. Well, Stanford now not playing for anything because of this loss they took to Penn State, who's been on a serious streak. They literally snapped a 7-game losing streak, almost as long as a streak as FSU. So this was a good little momentum towards the end of the season win for the Nittany Lions. And they won this in overtime, man. It was definitely, good back and forth battle. And PSU comes out on top 29-23. And I guess the main question that I'll have, we don't really need to get too much into this game, but questions about it. What do you guys think was the problem for Penn State this year? Like, what happened? I really felt like this team really underperformed where we kind of felt it would have last year. And there's been a couple teams like that, but I mean, Penn State, what do you feel went wrong with them this year?
I think the quarterback play was suspect on a regular basis. And I think similar to Florida State, State fell victim to a running back that I think has a lot of talent, but was just inconsistent, right? Just like Florida State, we saw Amari Bone play spectacular on random games here and there. Euro Winbush, we saw play really well in certain games here and there, but then we saw other games where he had, less than 50 yards rushing. So I just don't think they were able to consistently run the ball on the ground. And I think that put Yuki in a difficult spot, and they just weren't able to get much going. Stanford's not that good, so I'm not surprised that they were able to get the victory over Stanford, but Penn State just wasn't able to compete with some of the other teams. I think they're probably fourth best in the Big Ten this year. But I do like Euro Winbush. One of the things I like about him the most is I saw on a few games, he has a really good ability to pick up the block. I saw in the game against Notre Dame, I think it was week 2, Onoru Kala came off the edge and had an absolute beeline to get the sack. And Euro Winbush picked up the block on Onoru Kala and just stoned him in his tracks. So I do like the blocking ability from Winbush, but I just didn't see enough consistently on the ground from him.
I think sort of the same sentiment as what Dunn is saying here is I feel like, you take a guy like Yuki, who I don't think is as good as like Rocky Franklin, but I do see similarities where they can make plays, but they're also very inconsistent at times. But the difference is Franklin's got a team, and I just don't think Penn State has that team. And I think that's where the very big, where that difference came from, why Penn State struggled so much compared to Alabama. Because, we all know Alabama, it doesn't matter if they have recruits or not, or submitted players or not. It's Alabama. They're going to have a stacked team. So I think that's where the difference was. He might have been okay on another team, but because the level of talent on Penn State as a whole wasn't the same as some of the other schools, I just think that when you have a quarterback that has issues making decisions on his feet and being consistent, that it just magnifies when you have a team that's not able to sort of carry him at times, and they definitely didn't have that.
Yes.
You
guys on?
Well, I know we kind of skipped over that USC UCLA game. I don't know if you want to go back to that or
yeah, we sure
about
did.
that at all.
Well, really ain't too much to talk about. I mean, UCLA has been the worst team.
Except for sometimes.
Except for sometimes. Bill knows about that. But yeah, man, USC just getting the job done. Simple as that. Calvin Poole just doing what he does, man. This guy over 500 yards, player of the week, 3 touchdowns, already talked about that. And having that home field advantage just made it look easy. It's just light work. And there's nothing too much for me to say about that. One thing I can say is right now the scenario is that USC's got their destiny in their own hands. If these guys can continue to win out, they can stay within the top 4, and these guys can be in the playoffs once again as they were last season. With that, I mean, I don't feel USC, even though they are a great team, I just can't really envision them winning a natty or anything. But can you guys really see any chance of them possibly winning a national championship this year? I guess that's the one thing I can say.
So I don't see any reason why they wouldn't win their next 2 games. So that gets them to 11-2, and like you said, an 11-2 Pac-12 champion should all but secure a spot in the Final Four. And at that point, who's to say that any team in the Final Four doesn't have a chance to win? Because all you got to do is win 2 games. And I think depending on the matchup, depending on who they're going against, I think they could win that first round game. I mean, look, if there's a scenario where a team like Georgia gets in, if Georgia gets in, absolutely. If it's USC versus Georgia in the 2-3 game somehow, because we just assume that Miami's the 1, I could very easily envision a scenario where USC can get to the national championship. It just depends on who they're playing. If they're playing Miami, I don't think that they have the capability to beat Miami.
Yeah.
But that's the only team that I would say they don't have a chance at beating.
I can agree with that. I think that we have this year. I don't think we have a Georgia this year. Like we had last year. Miami is a very, very good team, but we all know that they have their own struggles when it comes to offensive productivity sometimes, or being able to finish drives in the end zone and whatnot. I don't think we have a team that's just dominating everybody no matter what, that hasn't had a nick in their shield yet, you know? And because of that, anybody who makes it that Final Four, I think, has a solid chance at winning the national championship, USC included. We've won. I've tried to doubt them throughout the season early on. You know this, Smitty. And they've proved me wrong every time. Calvin Poole, I said early in the year, this guy is way too conservative. Well, guess what? He's not. He was just getting warmed up. I think USC has a chance to win the Natty just like any other team does. And this year, we have such a cluster of teams. I don't think there's one team that I can say that team definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, is going to win it all. I have my own personal favorites, as we all know, Ohio State, but we know they're beatable. Last year, we didn't have that. We just knew it was Georgia. We just knew. This year, I think it's up for anybody as long as they make it to that Final Four.
Yeah, USC, big win right there. Moving on, we have Oklahoma at home taking on Louisville. Of course, this should have been an easy dub, as it was. Only put up 27 points up against Louisville. Louisville's defense has shown to be stingy at times, but Oklahoma is the #1 offense in the college series. It's crazy to think about that, because when you think about the way Oklahoma started out this season, these guys got the names of comeback kid, because they were getting beat by teams early in the first half, and then they would just miraculously come back as if, you know, none of that ever happened in the second half, and then finish the game in crazy fashion. And they went on a little 2-game losing streak. So they were 2-2 at one point. Once they dropped those 2 games, they haven't lost a game since. And not only that, I mean, these guys, look, 7-game winning streak they're on right now. And out of those 7 games, they've beaten teams of the like of Ohio State, TCU, and Baylor. And I threw TCU in there because, you know, TCU still is a pretty solid team. It's not easy to beat. So almost half of the 7 games that they've won has been against top tier talent. And, you know, especially, granted that the games were pretty close, you know, Baylor and Ohio State, both were games that were won by 3 points. But, I mean, Oklahoma is really showing that, you know, they might have what it takes to be able to play in the Final Four. I'm going to ask you guys, do you feel that Oklahoma is Final Four ready?
Do, and I don't think that. I think a lot of these teams. I think, Bill, you said it about USC. There's about 5 or 6 teams that have their destiny in their own hands. Oklahoma is one of those teams. If Oklahoma beats Oklahoma State this weekend, and they beat West Virginia in the Big 12 championship game, I don't know how you can keep them out. That being said, you could say the same thing about West Virginia. If West Virginia beats Georgia and then West Virginia beats Oklahoma, I don't know how you can keep them out. There's literally 6 teams right now that I could think of that if they win out, they deserve to be in. And there's a scenario where 5 of those 6 teams can actually win out. The only team that can't win out in that group of 6 is Oklahoma, West Virginia. One of those 2 teams have to lose because they play each other in the Big 12 championship. But absolutely,
actually,
Oklahoma.
You got to throw Georgia, because Georgia's playing West Virginia this week. So one of those teams aren't even going to be able to win out.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Right. They can't win out. But I also can envision a scenario where West Virginia loses that game to Georgia, but then they beat Oklahoma for the Big 12 championship, and you could make a case for West Virginia still getting in, depending on what happens around him. So, I mean, certainly Oklahoma wins out, and I think they have to be in. So, yeah, they could be in the Final Four.
Yeah, I think that they've shown enough to handle getting there. I don't know if they will win loss wise. I don't know. They're like right on that point where it's like a few weeks ago, I'm like, yeah, that's cute. They're making comebacks and all that. Oh, that's nice. But they've really shown themselves. You know, this team is really stepped up. So I would say I'm sort of confident in them getting to that spot. I do think they have some really stiff competition. I think there's in my mind, 8 teams left that can really make a push for those spots. So, but Oklahoma's in there, and I think they have a fair shot at it. And like Dunn said, they control their destiny. You win out, you know, how can you not be in? You know, so.
Yeah, so good win, and of course, like you said, it sums up pretty much everything about OU. We'll see what the rest of the weeks have for them And we got Auburn versus South Carolina. Now this Auburn, man, like, look, we of course knew in the beginning of the season these guys went on a streak, 4-game losing streak, 5-game losing streak, something like that. Then
Something
they
like that.
snapped their streak by beating LSU. These guys, well, as we talk about Auburn getting their dubs, South Carolina, we kind of had a feeling they were going to fall off later on. They had their big wins against LSU in week 2. Then in week 3, they beat Georgia, which was their biggest victory of the season. And then, you know, of their last 3 games as of late, they've lost, 3 games. And Auburn, literally because of this win and the way they've been playing, they've kind of been the team you kind of don't want to face or take light, because they've been upsetting some teams right now, and they're just a game away from being bowl eligible. Well, we already know that's going to be a tough task, because that's going to be the Iron Bowl against Bama, who's looking pretty good right now. But, you know, Auburn keeps their bowl hopes alive. And so let's talk a little bit about that. Is there any chance, based off of what you've been seeing from Auburn, that they could possibly walk away from the Iron Bowl game and make themselves bowl eligible this season?
I think Bama's playing well, and I would expect Bama to win that game. However, like you said, we have seen Auburn play well in big games, certainly recently, or not recently. I mean, but we saw them the game against Georgia, right? I mean, up until the last minutes of that game, we all thought that Auburn was going to win that game, and then Georgia won on a last-second field goal. I think that they could keep it close with Alabama. I just don't think that I don't think that they have a lot to play for at this point. And I don't know. Again, yeah, fine, it is the big rivalry game, but I just don't expect Auburn to go out there and get that win. Alabama has too much to play for, because Alabama still has an outside chance to at least, you know, be mentioned in the Final Four conversation. If they can win that game and then they can knock off Georgia in the SEC championship game, they've at least got to be mentioned. So they've got a lot to play for. This isn't just playing for the rivalry rights. This is a lot on the line for Alabama right now. So I think that they're able to take care of Auburn.
I don't think Auburn's going to do it. I just don't. Like, look, yeah, that's cute. You put a couple of wins together. Yeah, very nice. But you're Auburn. You know, we know what you were at the beginning of the season. And let's like, yeah, in South Carolina, I said this before we went on our little hiatus. I think they were like sort of the pretenders of this season. You know, they had that first little burst of energy and, you know, some nice games, and then they just fell and they just never really got back up. And so I'm not too surprised to see Auburn steal one from South Carolina. I do think they're a better team than Auburn, but I don't think Auburn's going to do much with anything. And yeah, they'll just have to take some of these morale wins and head home and try again next year.
So moving on to the next game, Clemson versus TCU. TCU desperately needed to win at least one of these last games. We already know they're not going to be in no playoff contentions, but we know how explosive this offense can be, especially with those receivers. And despite all the talk we hear sometimes about Deotis Speller, the guy is not afraid to sling that ball down the field for big plays, and that's what really keeps TCU in games. And in this one, they upset Clemson, man. I mean, even though they're ranked higher, you still look at, even though Clemson has been underperforming and just not pulling out wins, that is still is viewed as an upset. I really felt like in the beginning, Clemson kind of came out strong here, but then TCU just managed to get back little by little field goals, and they got the touchdown at the end there, and they end up knocking off Clemson. And now Clemson is in a battle for their life. They got to play South Carolina last week of the season. And if they don't win that game, this will be the first season Clemson in the college series, their season ends at the end of the regular season. So a lot to play for here. And they could have clinched at least that bowl game with the win over TCU, but TCU does so instead. What's you guys, thoughts on Clemson? Do you think they get it done next? Well, we'll talk about that when we go over the schedule. But thoughts on Clemson this season right now so far, and then thoughts on TCU pulling out this victory.
I think when you look at the big picture, Clemson was a big disappointment. All you did was look at the roster on paper and look at the overalls. I think this is a great example of submitted talent going to a team that doesn't fit them well. I think there are several players on Clemson's roster that would be doing themselves a great service if they were to transfer and go to other schools. I think that saw that in the overalls. I think Clemson had a couple corners that were over 90 overall or something. Their team overall was the highest in the country,
Yeah.
but they just weren't able to put it together at any point this season. I don't think there was ever a point, maybe the win over Notre Dame in week 2. Other than that, was there ever really a point? Well, I guess I'll ask you, was there ever a point where you felt like Clemson was turning the corner and, okay, here it is. This is the Clemson team that we thought we were going to see?
I had a little bit of a thought that they might have done that from that game that you just said about Notre Dame, but then they just never peaked at that same type of performance or level. So I never really had hope after they went on that streak and how they've been performing so far.
I think for one, TCU is really underrated, and I'm not in like, I don't think it's really in our eyes so much because I know we've all talked about them. I think a lot of the community members underrate TCU, but this offense is lethal, and Speller is good, and Harris and Sharkley are good, and this is a team that I don't think anybody wants to have to play ever. And Clemson has been on that sort of all season long. They haven't really put their foot forward to the point where it was like, okay, Clemson's here. It's just been a good game, bad game, good game, ugly game, pretty decent game, okay game. So I'm really not surprised to see TCU win this game. I feel like overall TCU has a much more explosive offense, and really their only issue for me anyway has been how well does their defense hold up. And if it holds up, then you're going to get these kind of games. So it's not surprising to me to see them take out Clemson.
Yeah, big one right there for TCU. And we had games of the week, of course, on Monday, Baylor versus Florida. And I expected this to actually be a little bit closer but I will talk about this though. Florida has not really, let me try to phrase this because I think I got something on this. It's like, even though Florida started to get on their streaks and stuff and started to look pretty solid, the teams they were beating really weren't like that. So it's just like, do you really feel, and I'm just going to pertain more towards the conference that they're in, do you really feel like Florida was ever a real threat to compete for the SEC Conference Championship alongside Georgia or Alabama getting there again?
Oh, I think from day one, this was a race between Georgia and Alabama, and you didn't even really have to look that far back. I mean, we're talking about the two teams that played for the national championship last season, right? So were we surprised anything that happened throughout this season? No, I don't think so. I think the only thing that we may have been surprised about was the fact that Florida played this well to begin with throughout the course of the season. And up until last week or the week before, still had an outside chance at making it to the SEC championship game. Obviously, you know, their overall record here, this game didn't matter towards the conference standings, but certainly doesn't help with the overall.
I think that this game was a little bit more lopsided than I expected it to be. I do think Baylor is a better team than Florida, and I think Florida for the most part was just I wouldn't say a pretender because they did put some good games together, but I just feel like it was sort of that underdog that everybody just wants to root for because you saw how bad they were. You saw them have so many mistakes or issues happening early on, and people are like, oh, yeah, Florida, woo, go, yeah, good job. But I don't think anybody really, and no offense to Florida, but I don't think anybody really expected them or think of them as a legitimate threat in their own conference or the other conferences that are up for grabs on the national championship right now. So I don't think that they were ever really a threat, and I'm not surprised to see them lose to a team like Baylor.
Yeah, it was a pretty bad beating too. I mean, Baylor controlled this game pretty much the entire way. They really did, and Florida just simply could not find a way to get moving on this defense. Their defense was killer. Just a couple of field goals. That's all it was with the 6 points total up, 34-6. I mean, I was expecting Baylor to win, but I wasn't expecting them to be able to do that to them. Wanted to see at least a little bit more fight out of Florida, but that's what led to me thinking about, was Florida really all that decent, or even really had a chance against Baylor? But obviously we saw that wasn't the case. The final game of the week was the game of the week. UNC blowing out Notre Dame. This is another game that I thought was going to be close. And look, man, I don't know if you guys know about me. I talked about it before. But you already see I'm wearing the baby blue, man. You already see I'm wearing the baby blue.
Oh,
Tar
boy.
Heel fan. You feel what I'm saying? Damn,
Oh,
it's
see,
blurred out.
it's blurring out. Yeah,
Tar
that
Heel
failed.
fan. Guess
That
what?
failed, Smitty.
No, it didn't. It came
It
through a little
failed.
bit. It came through a little bit. But at the end of the day, Notre Dame got that work. I mean, this probably was. I mean, besides Wisconsin and Washington, you know, the 51-13 losses and stuff, like this was probably the most dominant game like that I've seen this week. Like literally, at least against a solid team. Like Notre Dame looked like they had zero chance in this, and they only got 2 points. They would have had 6 points just like Florida. They only got 2 points because of a safety, which came from a holding penalty when Miles McCain was thrown out of the end zone. So like, I mean, the UNC defense was absolutely shutting it down and full out exposed Notre Dame. And Notre Dame, there's nothing really I can say too much about them. They just never had a chance in this one. Constant pressure. They tried to go deep down the field with deep shots, and Cordell Brown had 6 pass deflections. In that game, they just could not go deep on these safeties. The coverage was tight. Wide receivers couldn't get open. And they're just absolute shutdown. And the offense did the bare minimum in this game. Literally, Miles McCain had only 101 passing yards the entire game. And the guy only threw 19 passes. Only threw 19 passes the entire game. The offense was barely on the field, and the Bull had 2 touchdowns. So it's just like, that was just as dominant as a defensive performance, and the offense just cruising. That's really a game where it's just like, okay, defense really won this, and Notre Dame never had a chance. What's your guys' thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, Smitty, you and I called this game. The thing that I took away from this was in the first quarter, North Carolina had, I think, 3 possessions, and 2 of those possessions started in Notre Dame territory.
Yeah.
So that is part of the reason why Miles McCain only had 19 pass attempts. He only threw for 101 yards because he was playing on a 40-yard football field. And when you're playing on a Pee Wee Pop Warner football field, you only have to throw 25 yards to get a touchdown, and that's pretty much what McCain did. He didn't have to lead the team down the field on long, sustained, clock-eating drives. All he had to do was gain 30 to 35 yards, and they were in field goal range, if not already in the red zone. So, Notre Dame was just not prepared for this game. There's another team in Notre Dame that was inconsistent on a week-to-week basis. And this game, like you said, was very one-sided. By halftime, this game was so far over, it was under. It was a shock to me that Notre Dame was so flat.
Yeah, I was expecting North Carolina to win, but I like you said, Smitty, and Dunn too. Like I didn't expect it to be that by that much and by that dominating of a fashion. But North Carolina has been, I think they've been one of the toughest teams so far this year, just for the simple fact that they've had to endure quite a bit of crap from going around and playing away and all this other stuff. So. This team is solid, man. This team has what it takes, and I'm not surprised to see them beat Notre Dame, but I really thought that we were seeing a Notre Dame team that, at least I was a few weeks back, and things could have changed, but it looked like Notre Dame was really starting to turn up, and the whole butter knife thing was gone and yada yada, and I don't know what happened, man, but North Carolina is legit. They're one of the better teams. I think they just don't get enough credit for being one of the top teams because they're a new team and they're not, they don't have the history of Georgia does or Alabama or anything. So, but I think North Carolina's got what it takes, man. They are a tough team, and to see them beat Notre Dame like this, like you can call it a bad game for Notre Dame, but that's still a heck of a team to beat. So, hats off North Carolina.
Especially the way they did it, man. And then, we're talking about streaks. I mean, at one point we really felt like, Notre Dame was possibly a top 4, maybe a playoff team. At one point they were putting things together a little bit, but then a 3-game losing streak, they were 6-2, now 6-5, just barely still bowl eligible by just the one game, and just looking forward to a 7-5 record. At least it's better than last year. Last year was really bad. I mean, that was really bad. But tough loss, really came out flat, like Dunn said, and great win by UNC. And we're going to be looking forward, of course, to see what is going to be happening next week. But let's go ahead and get a look at this upcoming week here. So the Week 13 schedule, rivalry week, whatever you want to call it. We even got some throwbacks of RFL classics like Miami and Baylor. So let's just go in order, give our predictions on who we think is going to win and why. And then as we go through that, that'll lead us right into the top 25. So first game, Clemson versus South Carolina. We know how important this game is for South Carolina. No, I mean for Clemson. South Carolina's already bowl eligible. They know they ain't going to be in the playoffs. So at the end of the day, they're set. Clemson is looking not to have their season end tomorrow. And so at 5 p.m. Eastern, Tigers versus Gamecocks. This is going to be, I think that's a real life rivalry too, isn't it? That's a real life rivalry right there. So it's South Carolina, yeah, because it's Clemson's in South Carolina. So that's going to be very interesting to see. I kind of, in a sense, feel coming in this matchup is kind of like almost even. Like it's crazy to even say that because South Carolina had their explosion and Clemson just never really did. But they have talent. But who do you guys think is going to win this?
Give me South Carolina because they're at home, and the inconsistencies of Clemson throughout the year. It's going to be a lot on the shoulders of Cinco Cardenas to come out and win this game just to continue their season. At the end of the day, I think this is a coin flip game. Give me South Carolina simply because they're at home.
I think I'm going to play some devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
I like both teams to win this game technically because I just don't know which one is going to – it really comes down to which one's not going to have as many mistakes or as many letdowns because both teams have had that throughout the course of the season. But I just feel like Clemson's got a little bit more reason to really get this win, and I'm going to take Clemson.
And I'm going to ride with you on that. I think Clemson, this is a big game. And like I said, they got the talent. It's the last game of the season for them. I feel like they put it together despite being on the road. And remember, South Carolina's on 3-game losing streak, so their momentum is a little bit down. So I kind of feel like this is the game for Clemson, to save a terrible season from being just flat out terrible. You can at least go to a bowl game, possibly win that. At least going to a bowl game is better than being flat out terrible, not doing anything. So I got Clemson getting it done on the road there. Second game at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, USC versus Texas. We already know USC's got to win out. Texas has looked bad this year, but we never know. Trap games and stuff we've seen, those have happened. But I really don't think that Texas is going to be rocking with USC at all in this game, despite having the home field advantage. I got the Trojans.
I don't see a scenario where Texas gets the win in this one. I think USC is pretty much steamrolling their way to a 4 spot. I think they win this one convincingly.
I don't even need to talk about it, man. It's USC. Texas, just you guys can try, but just let it go. USC is going to win.
Yeah.
All right, we go into the premier games. Iowa versus Tennessee. Iowa no longer bowl eligible. They went to 2 bowl games the first 2 seasons and upset and lost at 4-7. And it's tough, but Tennessee's been looking really bad as well. I'm going to take Iowa. I still feel like they can make for some good games. They got some good talent at times. Rivers Jr. has played good at times. I think he gets it done on the road. Tennessee's defense is pretty solid, though, sometimes. They can be really good and very stingy, but I think Iowa gets it done.
Yeah, give me Iowa in this one between Rivers and I think Baptiste. I think they have the best. I think they have the most talent on the field. And at some point, when you're talking about 2 teams that aren't that great, give the team that has the more talent.
Iowa. I'm still going to back Iowa.
And boy, Bill is pretty much an Iowa fan in the RFL College Series, man. He's been rooting for those dudes ever since I didn't even want him to play for.
Ever since last year. I don't know if y'all know this. Last year, this man didn't want them to have a good bowl game, and I fought tooth and nail, and it was worth it.
Iowa.
Bill fights was going to fight tooth and nail for any team in the Big Ten.
Bill.
Exactly.
But,
Big Ten needs some respect.
This is the big game for Washington coming up right here because, I mean, it's UCLA. Blowout season. But what have we seen from UCLA sometimes? The games that they've got has definitely been some shockers on some dubs. And you're just like, wow, I thought these guys weren't going to win any game. If Washington loses this game, Oregon just has to win, as you can see, against Penn State. And they're out of the Pac-12 Conference Championship. They win this, it's solidified. And even though, you know, all the hype and all the drama around it sounds good, I really got the Huskies winning this convincing.
Yeah, UCLA hasn't done anything for me, quite honestly. Does UCLA doesn't have a submitted player, I don't believe. And
they did, but you know, he got
they did.
Yeah.
He gone.
He didn't want to deal with it. He left.
Bella.
Was the weakest link. Goodbye. Yeah, I mean, give me Washington here. I think in the last couple of weeks, I found myself watching way too much Washington football the last couple of weeks. I watched that Oregon game pretty intently. I think Washington's just going to run away with this one.
I also think Washington's going to win this game. UCLA can have a couple of upsets, but I don't think it's. I think those are just flukes. Washington might not be the best, but they're a much more put together team, I think, than UCLA.
All right, Arizona State versus Wisconsin. I already know. Hey, he already got his pick from his hat. But Arizona State, I got these guys winning, man. Their offense is just too explosive. Wisconsin really hasn't shown me much of anything. I mean, these guys lost to UCLA, man. I ain't like, come on now. Arizona State just came off a pretty big win too against. Of course, it's not big. It's Florida State, but Florida State puts up a good fight. I feel like that's the same type of scenario here with Wisconsin, and I just feel like the Sun Devils are going to get it done.
I wish I knew the spread on this game because that's the only
I'm gonna
thing
make them at the end, but yeah.
That's the only thing that really makes this game interesting for me because you told me that Wisconsin was getting points. I might take Wisconsin. You told me that Arizona State was getting points. I would probably take Arizona State. This game is a winner wins this game by less than 3. And I don't know who it is. I'm going to defer. I'm going to defer to Bill on this one.
You know what he's going to say.
This is a very simple one. This is gonna be Wisconsin by like 20.
20.
20. Y'all heard this guy, right?
20.
Moving on. An old-fashioned rivalry. Maryland used to be a part of the ACC. Of course, moved over to the Big Ten. Used to have games against Louisville, and that's how they're going to finish out the season. Maryland got a huge win over Michigan. That was a big win they got this past week. So great momentum riding into this game. Louisville, of course, took a tough loss to Oklahoma. I'm actually going to take Louisville in this one to close out the season. I think they beat the Terrapins.
So I'm going to take Louisville as well. My concern with this game, real simple. Given the number of options that each team has, a little concerned that we're going to be so blinded by the uniform selections, we're not going to be able to see what actually goes on the field. Between Louisville and the possibility of their chrome helmets and Maryland, but I think Louisville takes this game.
You throwing shots at them uniforms, Dan?
No, just the Louisville chrome helmets. If you give Louisville the chrome helmets in this one, and I don't know.
Bill, you got anything to say on it?
I got some stuff to say.
You look like he's doing research.
Oh.
What's it said about
reading? Are you like
You're a hater.
Britannica?
You're hating it right now. What do you mean? These uniforms are pretty.
Maryland, right? Hey, what is that talking about, man? Get him out of here, man.
Oh, bother.
Come on now.
Done talking about, man.
Anyway,
two of the most fire uniforms in the series, man.
Anyway, I think I'm gonna take Louisville for the game, and I'm gonna take Maryland for the uniforms. Right, Dunn?
How? God, you guys haven't learned yet.
I don't think you learned yet, Dan. I think it's the other way around. But Notre Dame versus Stanford, even though Notre Dame has had their struggles and they're on a 3-game losing streak, This is the game Notre Dame gets it done. You know, they should be able to wash out Stanford, and that's all I got to say about that. I got Notre Dame.
Yeah. What? I'm gonna take Stanford in this game. Only because Notre Dame is in a free fall right now. They have done nothing. They haven't won a game. Here's a thought for you. Notre Dame hasn't won a game since Keno Thetford decided he was going to transfer. Take that one in for a second.
Ooh.
Give me Stanford.
We
Give
have
me
some
Stanford.
drama. The Fighting Irish are now fighting internally.
There you go.
See what I did there?
I see what
Replaced Irish with internally.
Yeah,
Pretty clever, huh?
It's all right, Bill.
I'm still going to take Notre Dame, though.
Yeah, nothing else to say about that. Okay, Florida State, will it be a 9-game losing streak for these guys against Florida? I think so. Florida took a tough loss. We're not on the level of Baylor this past week, but I think they bounced back, especially with the home field advantage. And all you got to do is shut down the run game of Amari Bone. They have nothing else on the offensive side of the ball to be able to score points. Florida State's defense can be all right at times, but like I said, if they can't score any points offensively, they don't stand a chance. I got Florida.
Yeah, I think this will be a close game, but I think I lean with you on this one. I lean towards Florida. Yes, they're at home, so that will help. But don't be surprised to see Amari Bone have a good game and maybe a low-scoring game. If Florida State can keep this game, under 21, if it's like a 17-point winner has like 17 or 20 points, I think Florida State can win. If this is a high-scoring affair, I think that helps Florida being at home.
I'm going to take Florida. I would like to see Amari Bone give us another 200-yard performance, but I just don't think it's going to happen until he gets some help. So we're going to go Florida.
So
and Florida State, everybody else on Florida State is trash. Oh yeah, that's why too.
LSU and Texas A&M going at it. This should be a pretty solid game. LSU just has not lived up to any type of. I don't even think they really had too much hype coming into this series. They had a couple of submitted prospects and things like that. We thought they were going to be way better than this. Not even going to be bowl eligible. And the Aggies have struggled a bit as well. And I'm actually going to take the Tigers in this one here at home. I think that LSU beats Texas A&M.
Yeah, I've been very critical of LSU this year. I said Baaaack was easily a bottom 5 quarterback in the country. I don't think that they are good in any facet of the game. I think Robert Harper is really the thing that they have going for them in the secondary on defense. So give me Texas A&M in this one. I think they underperformed this year. Give me A&M to get a win in the last game of the season here.
I think I'm going to have to go with LSU in this because regardless of how I feel about LSU throughout the series, I do feel that they have more talent than what A&M has altogether, even with the bad play of Baaaack or however we say his name. I'm still pretty sure it might be Baaaack, but I'm not sure. I'm not going to argue it. Anyway, I'm going to go LSU in this. I think they'll
argue with you.
You always want to argue. Even when you're wrong, you want to argue. This guy will be dead wrong. No, he's wrong. And he'll tell somebody behind him, hey, I know I'm wrong, but watch me argue this right now. And you'll still argue it.
But
you'll argue about what color the sky is.
Hey, look, AR know about that. If you was in the VC yesterday,
that doesn't surprise me at all.
Got that.
I'm just glad if somebody else, other than me and poor Rob, are having to deal with this crazy argument stuff.
But yeah, LSU I got now and Bill, and then Texas A&M for done. Oregon versus Penn State. Look, Penn State got their dub over Stanford, snapped their 7-game losing streak. But I think they're going to go right back to losing. Oregon has been inconsistent. Of course, way less inconsistent as Penn State has been. But, having a home field advantage, the talent they've got, like you said, whoever's got the more talent, more likely going to win at this stage. And I got the Ducks.
Give me Oregon. Not only that, give me Justin Creel over 150 yards on the ground. Oregon wins this one convincingly.
I got Oregon as well.
All right. Moving on, Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State. Like I said, Oklahoma State, they've been putting up some good fight with teams and lost multiple games, more games by one possession than any other team in the RFL College Series. But I think it's going to be another tough loss here. I do feel like it's a possibility, of course, that this game could be close because of, how Oklahoma State operates. And sometimes you do see, Oklahoma just, sometimes like, what are they doing? Like put up 27 points against Louisville this past week. I thought they would do more damage than that. But of course, I got the Sooners winning this one.
Yeah, Bedlam's going to be interesting this weekend. I think you hit the nail on the head for me, Smitty. Oklahoma has shown that they are susceptible to giving up an early lead. And if Oklahoma State can get Roper in the ground game going and they can win the time of possession, I could see a scenario where this game is a lot closer than we might think. I think a lot of us are thinking Oklahoma wins this game by 12 to 15. I could envision a scenario where this is more like a 6 to a 9 point victory for Oklahoma. But at the end of the day, I expect Oklahoma to win.
Very, very easily, I have Oklahoma in this game.
Runaway? You got them by. In a runaway, what do you got them by? Like 15, 20?
Oklahoma versus OSU? 25.
Ow.
Sheesh.
Oh, and by the way, AR, go for a couple more years, and then you might be close to how many hours me, Smitty, and Rob have gone at it. It is insane. It is insane. You had like two nights, and you're all like, we do it all the time. No. You don't know. Like 4 a.m, arguments still from 10 the night before.
Bull was with me too. He how long we stayed? For like 2 a.m. probably as well. You said 4 though. We haven't 4 o'clock. But yeah. But the next game, the Iron Bowl, man. You can't look past the Iron Bowl. It's always a solid game to look forward to. And I think it's definitely an interesting one because Auburn has shown life, and this is a must-win game for them to even be bowl eligible. But like I said, I already predicted this already. I don't think Auburn wins this game, but I do think that they can put up a good fight, just like how Dunn was talking about. I do feel like it could be a close game, but I think the heavy favorites here for sure is the Crimson Tide, and that's what I'm going to go with on the road.
I just think it comes down to which team has more to lose. And right now, Alabama has a lot to lose if they don't win this game. This game doesn't really mean as much. It means a lot for Auburn because if they win the game, they become bowl eligible. But that's a far cry from the level of importance of Alabama needing to win this game because they need to keep their Final Four chances alive. So despite the fact that they're on the road, despite the fact that Auburn typically plays up their level of SEC competition, I expect Alabama to win this game.
We're seriously talking about this? Oh, yeah, Alabama.
All right, then.
Yeah.
UNC,
I didn't know we were taking that seriously.
UNC versus TCU. After the performance UNC just had against Notre Dame, TCU is great and all, but against that defense, as explosive as their offense has been, I got UNC walking away with this one. Could it be a competitive game? Yeah, but I think it's probably won by, if not 7 or more points.
Oh, hear me out on this one. And I'm glad that you said that you think that it could be close. Because I'm going to say here might sound a little bit crazy. Look at these two teams side by side. We have TCU, kind of a quarterback playing really well. We have North Carolina lately, a quarterback playing really well. We have two very solid on paper receiving cores throughout the season, solid receiving cores. The only real difference in this game is that North Carolina's defense is significantly better than TCU's defense. So I guess I'm going to say that if this is a high scoring game, meaning if this is a game if the winner of this game gets above 30, I think UNC wins this game handily. But if this is a game that is played in the trenches, and this is a game that, we're looking at like 25 or less, I think TCU has a chance here. very similar to what I said about Florida State, Florida. If this is a game where the final score is 21-17, I think TCU could win this game.
I'm really torn with this one because I do think that North Carolina is probably one of the top tier teams. Like I said before, we were speaking about their game last week, and I know TCU's defense is not on the level of North Carolina, but that offense is just so explosive. It's a tough one, but I will go with North Carolina for the simple fact that I just think they are a better, more balanced team than TCU. If it's a battle of offenses, I would give that to TCU, but since obviously it's a team sport, I'm going to go with North Carolina.
Yeah, and it also really depends on what Deoda Speller you're going to get. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're going to get the one that takes care of the football a little bit better and just throwing bombs. We already seen North Carolina contest the deep ball extremely well against Notre Dame, and that's what TCU lives off. If they take that away, I don't think TCU has a chance at all, especially if they don't have a good start to build up a run game either. But here's a big game right here. In real life, Michigan came out on top and beat Ohio State, man. And this ain't real life though here. This is the RFL College Series. Ohio State has, been up there, top dogs and all that. I think that these guys are going to win this probably pretty easily, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's pretty close.
My only concern here is, and we talked about this earlier on in the show, is the fact that they do play each other back-to-back weeks. I think that's something that shouldn't be overlooked. We don't know what that's going to look like. We don't really know how that's going to play out. Do we think that the loser of this game is going to somehow be able to make adjustments to play better the following week since they're playing the same team? I don't know. On paper and throughout the course of the season, it's clear that Ohio State is the better team, but it's a big rivalry game. Michigan is at home. Michigan kept it, under 10.
Yeah, do it.
Maybe, but I don't think that they have enough here.
Do it, Dunn. Don't do it.
I can't. I just can't. I can't. Give me Ohio State. Ohio State by single digits.
You mean triple digits? I think we're really going to see that 64 awareness this week. I mean, I'll just say that.
What's the highest number of points ever scored in a college series game? Smitty, do you know that?
62.
We might see Ohio State
That was broken
beat that
by
record.
Oklahoma this.
I'm just kidding.
They beat you.
Okay, so
I don't think Michigan's that bad. I'm just poking fun at you guys. But Ohio State's going to win.
62 this year, Oklahoma, that's the highest number ever?
Mm-hmm. All right, then this is a big game, and we know how crazy this matchup was last year. When Baylor thought they had it in the bag, Miami came back and won for probably the craziest comeback in college series history, as Miami ended up getting that upset. And of course, right now, top team taking on Baylor on the road. Baylor just dominated Florida. So, I'm not saying that means really much of anything, but I can't really. I think this is going to be a solid game because I kind of, in a sense, feel like Miami's offense is going to have some trouble with Baylor's defense. And because of that, I really do think this could be a very low-scoring game. And if it's not a low-scoring game, it's not going to be won by much by Miami. I got the Hurricanes.
Yeah, I think this game's going to be a lot more interesting than people give it credit for a couple of reasons. One, Miami doesn't really have a lot to play for in this game. To that point, Baylor doesn't really either. They don't have a chance at the Big 12 championship, already bowl eligible. So neither team is really playing for all that much other than pride, and Miami's looking to keep the winning streak going. But I think Baylor, I think you hinted on this, I think Baylor has the better offense here. So I think Miami offense is going to struggle against Baylor's defense. I think we might be looking at the two best defenses in the country. And I think Miami's offense is going to have a really difficult time this will be a low scoring game, or if it's a high scoring game, I would expect to see several turnovers and a couple defensive touchdowns. Give me Miami by 6.
Give me Baylor by 20. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I was like,
I just want to get the guys in the chat riled up.
Here we
No,
go. Palm trees in the chat. Here
Yeah,
they come.
I think Miami's going to win this one, but it's going to be a really close game. I think it's going to be like a field goal difference. I don't think there's going to be a much of a, like, one team is not going to dominate the other one in this game. I don't think. I think we'll see something like 27-24 Miami.
You almost had me looking up at the thing like, who is this guy? But West Virginia versus Georgia, absolute game of the week. Everyone knew this was going to be the last game of the week. There was so much hype going into the season based off of all the back and forth, tensions between the players in the Discord, and AR before he became a coach, how much he was talking about how he's going to beat West Virginia. He even made a graphic with his bulldog chewing a West Virginia hat as if they were going to dominate. But hey, Georgia's looked a little bit sketchy to me, and I've talked about it. Georgia guys already know. I spoke to them in VC yesterday, and I just feel, look, they got the home field advantage, and that's great. But I feel I'm actually going to take West Virginia in this one. I do think that West Virginia is going to get it done because I just feel like their defense is going to be able to keep up with Georgia's offense. Their offense, I think, is going to do just enough to get by Georgia. And you've seen as of lately, their defense has kind of been inconsistent. We have seen Georgia give up quite a bit of big plays at times. So I'm actually going to take the Mountaineers in this game on the road.
I mean, one who has paid any attention to anything that I've had to say over the course of the college series knows that I've been critical of Georgia. I don't think that they have won games convincingly. I think that style points and margin of victory mean a lot. And we look at right now a scenario where we've got 6 teams with the same record at 9-2 and 1 team at 10-1 ahead of them. So we're talking about 7 teams right now fighting for 4 spots. And I can't make a case for Georgia being one of those top 4. This is an absolute must-win game for Georgia. If they don't win this game, their season is over. I don't think they can lose this game and get in, even if they win the SEC championship game. I don't think that win over Alabama is going to be enough to warrant them getting in over the likes of Oklahoma, Ohio State, and USC, who I think are going to have a good chance of winning their conference championship. So expect Georgia to come out and play with a lot of passion. I would expect AR to throw the ball downfield a lot. We've seen he likes to throw the deep ball. However, I would proceed with caution because careful what you wish for. And if you throw the deep ball a lot against this West Virginia secondary, you might not have the success that you think. This West Virginia secondary is really good. Give me West Virginia, but not by a ton. Georgia fans might be shocked to think that I'm going to say West Virginia by less than a touchdown.
I got 2 things. One, I'm going to take Georgia. Okay. They ain't the same Georgia from last year. I know that. And I know West Virginia's been really, really good. But Georgia's at home, and I have to take that into account. So I'm going to take Georgia by probably the same as what Dunn said, less than a touchdown. And then this is the last game, so it's okay. I just want to highlight, I think, the best comment of this whole live stream right now. And this might make me want to switch over to cheer for Baylor this weekend. So Eric Ashley has said, all y'all can sip Bahama Mamas with the Island Boys after we stop them into the ground. Oh, I don't know if anybody knows who those guys are, but that was hilarious.
Yeah, I had to do the little chuckle because I don't.
Oh, man.
Good.
You don't know who the Island Boys are?
Is it the dude that was singing the song?
You don't want to know. You really don't want to know who they are. It's one of those weird. That thing.
Yeah. Okay, now I know what you're talking about. But yeah, so that is the games that we got this week, and I'm kind of, I don't know why I did this because we were actually supposed to go over the top 25 first, and they were already displayed on there.
I saw that, and I wasn't going to say anything.
Let's go ahead and look at the top 25 now. So this is the top 25 at number one.
I didn't expect to see these.
Is still at number 1. Georgia still at 2. West Virginia 3. USC 4. Oklahoma 5. Ohio State 6. Alabama 7. North Carolina 8. Baylor 9. Florida 10. TCU jumps all the way to 11. Notre Dame 12. South Carolina 13. I'm gonna say Mexico City. Look, RFL season coming around the corner,
RFL
man.
time.
Michigan 14, Washington 15, Oregon 16, Auburn 17, Clemson 18, Louisville 19, Iowa 20, Texas A&M 21, Stanford 22, LSU in the rankings 23, Oklahoma State 24, and Texas at 25. What's you guys' thoughts
at 26
on these rankings?
Right. I don't like it. My first thought is I don't like it. I don't like Georgia at number 2. I don't know how that we can look, Georgia. I don't know how we can put Georgia ahead of Ohio State when they have the same record and Ohio State blew. I mean, Ohio State didn't just beat them. Ohio State humiliated them. I can see USC and Oklahoma being ahead of Ohio State because USC and Oklahoma are both of Ohio State's 2 losses. And I can see West Virginia being up there simply because they have 1 loss as far as we're all concerned. They really only have 1 loss. That sim loss, I don't think carries as much weight. So for me, I look at this and I would have, if it were me, I probably would have had Miami at 1. I would have had, I could see West Virginia at 2. I would have had Ohio State 3, Oklahoma 4, USC 5.
Well,
would have had Georgia at 6.
I get your logic on certain when you talk about certain teams, but because of the way the college series is ran, and if you get a head-to-head is important. So for that reason, USC beat Ohio State, so they can't be ranked ahead of them. And because of that reason, USC has not been able to, they just caught up to Georgia. So they can't pass Georgia because Georgia has been winning their games. So if they've got to be underneath Georgia, Ohio State's got to be underneath for them. They can't be ahead of Oklahoma because they lost to Oklahoma. And that's what I was talking about early on why those 2 losses to those teams that are in the top 4 in conversation is the reason why Ohio State could miss being in the playoffs this year, because the 2 losses, they got to hope that both of those teams either they can surpass record-wise or, for whatever reason, they just straight out lose out, So it's like, it's a tough place for for Ohio State to be in, despite how talented we know they are. But because of the system, because they, just catching up to Georgia, if Ohio State beat Oklahoma, of course Oklahoma would have been over Georgia at that point. West Virginia would have more than likely moved up to maybe 2, or maybe a state at 3, and then Ohio State would have been 2. But because of those losses and who they lost to, that's why Ohio State is sitting where they are. And, that's a tough spot for them to be in right now. They just got to hope that something happens where, they really got to hope for West Virginia to beat Georgia, this week.
So I think the thing that throws me here is USC, Oklahoma, and Ohio State are being punished because they had a bye week earlier on this season, right? Because last week Georgia and West Virginia were 9-2 when all these other teams were 8-2, simply because Georgia hadn't had their bye week yet. And that makes sense. Fine, I get it. They had more wins. They were 9-2. USC, Oklahoma, and Ohio State were 8-2. So Georgia and West Virginia are up there at 2-3. But now all of these teams have the same exact record. So basically, Georgia and West Virginia don't play. USC, Oklahoma, and Ohio State go out there and they dominate. Ohio State dominated Georgia. I guess I'm fine with USC and Oklahoma being ahead of Ohio State. I just my question is I don't know how Georgia of all these teams, Georgia has the worst loss on the board. Their loss to South Carolina is worse than other loss up here, right? I mean, Ohio State's 2 losses are ahead of them. USC's loss was Notre Dame. I don't see it for Georgia. And now looking at this, yes, Georgia is, I don't even think that Georgia has to win out to get in, because even if they lose to West Virginia, far can they fall? I mean, if they lose to West Virginia and they fall from 2 to 6, but then they turn around and they beat Alabama in the SEC championship, you have great argument to put them back at 4. I think Georgia is inferior to 3 teams behind it. That's all. That's me.
Mm-hmm. But I do want to get this out real fast. Is about Georgia is because that's why I said at the end of the day, the real teams that do deserve to be there will be there. Georgia, they do deserve a shot. I mean, at the end of the day, they are still winning their games, even though we want it to be by a bigger margin, stuff like that. And, their schedule played into their hands to keep them up there. But don't think that just because they're there right now, if they take a loss to West Virginia, that ends them, period. It might be a chance if they beat. I don't even know if it's really a chance if they beat Bama, because you got 6 teams that are 9-2, right? And if we think about that, what does that mean? If West Virginia beats Georgia, they're 10-2. Georgia's now 9-3. USC, easy game this week. They're going to be 10-2. Oklahoma State, easy game. That's 10-2. They can't, at that point, they're going to surpass Georgia. And when they do, Ohio State, even if they lose, has to be above Georgia because they beat them. So, yeah, if they lose, they will actually be under even Alabama if they lose last week, if Bama wins this week, because Bama would then be 10-2. So they need to win this game against West Virginia, because that number 2, they're just sitting there, but a loss would be so detrimental to them, they won't even see the top 4 or have a real chance.
Yeah, I'd be shocked, I guess, based on overall record, if that's what it's going to be. Even if Georgia loses, I still would think that they were ahead of Alabama. But I get they would be 9-3, Bama would be 9-2. To me, I still think Georgia's the better team than Alabama. But it'll be interesting. I mean, there's the games this weekend are going to determine a lot.
Bill, you want to go ahead then?
Yeah, I do. I was just reading the chat a little bit. Hey, I remember this too. And this might stir up something, but I don't care because I thought it was funny. So Qbox said, I thought dudes fell in during their bye week. Wasn't that what you said earlier this year, Smitty?
They can, but it can happen. It can happen. That's not stirring up anything.
See, Georgia should have fell.
But why didn't Georgia fall? I already explained that. They can't.
I just like to stir the pot, man.
Yeah, I know. But
anyway,
Georgia, that the bye week, it depends. It really depends.
Anyway, what I do think is I do agree with Dunn to some degree. And I've been saying this for a long time. Ohio State needs to be up there. I get it. I understand both sides of it. I'm not saying that the way it's laid out is wrong. What I'm saying is that in my mind, if we have the ability to take the 4 best teams, not by conference record, not by, bullet points and all that, just 4 best teams, there's no way Ohio State is not at least, no, they have to be top 2 in my mind. Top 2. Very, very bottom is top 3. But to me, I put them at 2 solely because they have a worse record than Miami. If it wasn't for that, if they had the same record, I put them above Miami.
I give West Virginia a little bit of credit.
The reason I said 3 is because of West Virginia. I should point that out.
We cannot forget the fact that West Virginia's second loss was not really their fault. It was an unfortunate circumstance, but the reality is West Virginia would have never lost that game. West Virginia should be 10-1. And then, I think the best you can do is put Ohio State at 3. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Ohio State is clearly one of the best 4 teams in the country. And I think the unfortunate thing for Ohio State now is right now they're on the outside looking in. And if you ask me, they might have the most difficult path outside of Georgia moving forward. Obviously, Georgia's got West Virginia and then they've got Alabama, but Ohio State's got to play 2 games in a row against Michigan. Tough to play the same team 2 in a row.
Yeah, it's tough. But that's where I say it comes down. Like, I understand it's great team, and I do feel like they're top 4 at 4 at best. And the reason why is because of their losses. It's just like if you lost to Oklahoma, you got to throw Oklahoma up there over them. If you lost to USC, you got to throw USC over them. You know what I'm saying? And then at that point, we already know right now Miami's number 1, and you guys already talked about West Virginia. So that right there puts them, if you want to talk about best teams at that point, out of the top 4. So, I can see what you guys mean, but at the same time, it could go either way. But Ohio State's really going to have to earn it. And I do feel like they can sweep Michigan, but we've seen Michigan be sneaky at times. But, like you said, it's a little bit easier for other teams to stay in. Like, say, if you're looking at USC. USC literally has got to play, who are they playing this week again? Texas, and then they're playing Washington in the Pac-12 if Washington wins, or Oregon. And they blew both of those teams out this year. So, I mean, they're definitely in the top. They're definitely in the top 4 as long as they handle their business. Nothing shocking happening, no crazy upset. And then West Virginia, like you guys already talked about, I mean, really should be 10-1. I picked them over Georgia this week, so like it's going to be interesting to watch to see how this unfolds. This is a big week.
Ready?
Yep.
Throw all the other stuff away. Do you pick Ohio State right now? If you got to choose the top 4, are they in your top 4?
I already talked about why they weren't in my top 4. I explained that.
You wouldn't.
The reason why I wouldn't is because I agree with most of what y'all said, but if they lost to Oklahoma and they lost to USC.
No, I'm not talking about any way to determine it. I'm saying strictly 4 best teams.
But
if you could pick 4 best teams. For that
reason, though, how can I say they're better than those teams if they couldn't beat them?
You don't think they're a top 4 team?
I don't feel they are. I got USC, I got Oklahoma, I got West Virginia, and I got Miami. What's wrong with that?
This is blasphemy.
They didn't beat 2 of those 4 teams
this
right there.
This is blasphemy.
They're the ones that gave them their 2 losses.
I'm going to turn into Stephen A. Smith here soon.
Well, but hold on. I guess you just named, what did you say, Miami, West Virginia, USC, and
West
Oklahoma.
Virginia, USC, Oklahoma. Yep.
You put Oklahoma above Ohio State?
They beat them. What do you mean?
Beat them. I'm okay with that.
I'm talking about head-to-head. Which team is better?
You saw which team was better head-to-head. You can't dispute that.
Come on.
You can't dispute a head-to-head loss, bro. They played them and lost. So how are they better? You cannot argue those 2 teams, period.
That's like saying that UCLA beat that one good team like 4 weeks ago, so they must be better than them. We know that's not true.
They wouldn't be in the conversation because they wouldn't have the wins. These teams got the wins.
Here.
They're all the same record, and they beat them.
Okay, so here's what I will say. So here's what I will say to that. Ohio State beat Georgia, but take it a step further. If you add up the total number of points that Oklahoma beat Ohio State by and the total number of points that USC beat Ohio State by, and you take both of those games, margin of victory in both of those games is still smaller than the margin of victory that Ohio State beat Georgia by. That's how embarrassing that game was.
I didn't have Georgia even in my top 4, so that
but you got them at 2
with Georgia, yeah. Because they have to be there based off the rules. But he asked me for my true top 4. And I cannot argue for Ohio State to be over 2 teams they've already played and lost to. So off the rip, you can't challenge them being better than USC. You can't challenge them being better than Oklahoma. And you guys already agreed that you would have Miami and West Virginia over them because West Virginia technically took a loss that they shouldn't have taken. So at that point, are they even really a top 4 team?
Right now, I think none of it really, a lot of it doesn't matter, right? Because we're going to see Georgia play West Virginia. And after that game, one of those teams is going to be out of the top 4. And then the week after that, we're going to see Oklahoma play West Virginia. And after that game, one of those 2 teams is probably going to fall out of the top 4. Yeah. So, we're at this point, we're just kind of arguing for the sake of arguing, because in the next 2 weeks, 2 of these teams are guaranteed to fall out. 2 of these teams are guaranteed to lose.
Yeah.
Blasphemy.
Unless West Virginia loses to both.
Yeah, if West Virginia, even if West Virginia was to lose to Georgia, right? And like was to beat, like say they beat Georgia, and then they lose their against Oklahoma, they're still going to be above Georgia because of the head-to-head. Because even if Georgia, well, that's the last game for Georgia, period. And well, say if they win their conference championship, they'll have the same record, but because they will have the same record and they won that head to head, West Virginia will be above Georgia anyway. So West Virginia still, in a sense, if they beat Georgia, just simply has a chance, even if they lose to Oklahoma, to be in the top 4. In the discussion, more than likely. If they don't, then they'll probably drop in 5. I can't really predict that any of that at all right now because it's so many. The guys in the top 8 are really all facing each other at this point, and that's just going to be crazy. I don't know how that's going to turn out. That's what's making this year's college series so interesting. But yeah, that's it for the top 25. And Bill, I forgot to tell you this, man. Can you set up Noah if he isn't already because he was supposed to join us for when we go over the RFL top 100, but I guess we can really save that for last. Let's get into our debate right now about these guys transferring. Dudes are talking about and it's pretty much been settled and squashed already with Amari, but we still don't know what his decision is going to be. I really feel like he's just frustrated about the times his quarterback's thrown some interceptions. He thinks his team could have won more games, and I understand that. But what the most important thing in this league is literally getting drafted. Who cares if you win a national championship? I got 2 coaches on the podcast with me right now. That doesn't mean anything. Nobody's going to draft you just because you were on a championship team. If you weren't the top player at your position, it doesn't matter. Who cares if you won a natty? That's the only thing you get to be excited about. You would have been done at that point, wasted an entire year or 2 just to go win a national championship when you can have multiple years in the future to be maybe winning a championship in the RFL. So, like, when I look at guys like Amari Harris trying to transfer out of TCU when both he and Sharkley at one point were the number 1 and 2 wide receiver in the series, who cares how bad the Otis Speller is playing? The guy's getting you the ball. He had you tops in the country. You're scoring touchdowns. Like, your draft stock is going up because of him. Who cares if you lose games? Of course you want to win games, but you are up there to be talked about as one of the top receivers as well as Sharkley. So that right there to me just doesn't make sense for him to leave. Then we go and talk about Keno Thetford. I don't understand the Keno Thetford thought of transferring at all because you are dominating at Notre Dame. Once again, this is just, in my opinion, someone who wants to leave just to win games in college, which don't matter. So if you're dominating at the end position, you go somewhere else and you don't have that same success, you're just plummeting. And what if you're not even nowhere near like a top 10 DN? That's crazy. You would think it's crazy to say because of how he's playing right now, but he's playing like that right now because he's at Notre Dame. He goes somewhere else and he shows his colors to be like, oh, he really wasn't that great. You just killed your stock. So those 2 moves right there, those are the major ones that people have been talking about. And I seen one earlier today with Austin Briley in the chat talking about transferring from Michigan to go to Florida State. Now, it would be great to have, a quarterback go with Amari Bone, but bro, you're on Michigan. You literally got your name up at Michigan. If you go to Florida State, what sense does that make? That makes no sense for the guys who are talking about leaving are the wrong guys to talk about transferring. And I just want to know what you guys' thoughts on that. Like, it just, to me, none of the moves or hype around those players makes no sense to me. And, I would hate to see their careers going to drain just trying to win college games. They mean nothing in the RFL.
Yeah, so there's a couple things that I look at here. One, Amari Harris transferring, I think if you're a wide receiver and you want to transfer to a school because you think there's a better fit, there's a better scheme, there's a better offensive team out there for you, I understand that. The Keno Thetford thing, I agree with you, Smitty. It doesn't make a lot of sense for me. I think it was 2 weeks ago, I had him on Miners Live, and he said Baylor, Texas, Georgia, Miami, and Ohio State were the teams that he was considering transferring to. The thing about most of those teams is that they have a lot of user-submitted players already. And I think that if you're a defensive lineman, you benefit from having other really strong defensive linemen with you. I think Keno Thetford is seeing that firsthand. A lot of his success is because as other good defensive linemen and other good guys on defense to sort of take away. He's not getting as many double teams because if he gets a double team, then they've got other really talented guys that just get a clean run at the quarterback. For defensive line guys, I think you want to stick at schools where you have other solid guys on the defensive line. But I'll tell you this. I meant to mention this last night and I didn't.
Oh my
but
God.
I had another name come across, not a name, a team and a position that is looking to enter the transfer portal. And apparently there's someone on Georgia who plays in the secondary that is looking to enter his name into the transfer portal. That's just another big name that might become public knowledge, in the weeks to come. I don't like, from day one, I've said, if you're going to transfer, go to a school that doesn't have a lot of user submits, because like you said, Smitty, it's all about your RFL draft stock. And if you can, if Austin Briley thinks that Florida State has a better offense than Michigan, then fine. I don't know that they do. But if you think that you're going to a school, like I know, and I think you guys would agree, there are certain college teams that have good schemes for offensive skill players. And if some wide receivers were to go to certain schools, I'm not going to name any of these schools, but I've got 2 or 3 schools that if a couple wide receivers went to that school, immediately jump them up my draft board simply because of the school that they're going to and the offense that we see them run. I would have to figure that they were going to produce really well. And I don't think guys do that as much as they should.
One thing I want to say here just before, this comments gets buried, like, look, man, Christian Williams, I know you want the Baylor Bears, you want the Bears to be good, but look, man, it doesn't, like, your defense is already like that. Keno going there, he could get overshadowed. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if your defense plays good and he's not putting up the same numbers like he was at Notre Dame, y'all hurting my man's draft stock. Like that's the part that people don't understand. I know you want the defensive end at your college, but let's actually think about the player. Even if the defense is good and he has an okay season with y'all, he's competing against other stars on the defense. Y'all's defense is already like that. So if you got dudes as a defensive tackle, a defensive end, even linebackers coming in, getting blitzes, getting sacks, and taking that away from him, those are statistics that he could have got at Notre Dame. So like that's what done and what we were talking about, when you got all these players on one team and they're competing on the same side of the ball for statistics, especially as a defensive lineman, that's going to hurt him more. Because what if he doesn't get any sacks like that? What if he doesn't have that pressure, that same presence on the edge, because the rest of the defensive players on your team overshadows him? It doesn't matter if he makes your DNs, your overall jumps up. What is it going to do for Keno Thetford? Look, there's a chance he could still be good. Like I said, there's a chance he could still keep his draft stock up, and that would be great for him. But why risk that when you're already making noise where you're at? When people already look at you as a top DN right now in the series, and you're going to leave a college that you made that name to go to a even better defense. That hurts Keno Thetford. So it's crazy, man. What you gonna say, Bill?
I have a couple of things to say about this. Okay. First, I'm gonna touch on the Omari Harris situation. So, and I've seen Darius 37 million times talk about strength of schedule in Discord, in the chats, and everything. I don't think that having a better strength of schedule is giving you the argument you think it is. Why would it be better for someone to make it more difficult for them to take advantage of a mismatch a weekly basis? That doesn't make sense. At TCU, he is going to see a lighter schedule. That's just fact. He's going to. Will there be some really good teams they play? Of course they will. But are they going to have the level of schedule at Miami? No. And you guys did that yourselves because of all the hype. So you guys gave yourselves a strong schedule. Omari right now is balling on a team that has, in my opinion, and I think others think, one of the most potent offenses in the entire series. You can like their record if you want to or not, but that's fact. So why would a guy want to go from a team, regardless of how he feels about a quarterback, to another team that and I'm not saying this wouldn't fix it, because it might, but right now this is the facts. We know if there's any hole in Miami's game, it is finishing in the passing game. We've seen that. So you want this guy who is, you can say he's not going to have targets, but he is. Even if he's not getting the most targets, he's getting more targets than all of your receivers half the time at Miami. So why would it be a good idea for him to leave the school where he is flourishing right now and he has a name in this series to go to a place with stiffer competition, with an offense that's proven to have difficulty finishing passing drives for touchdowns? For what? That's my opinion. Now, he could go and he could flourish, but we have to take the facts with how we know them. We know the facts. He is making a name right now at TCU. He is literally making everything harder on himself going to Miami, and risks falling in line behind everybody else who's already made a name for themselves at Miami. You don't have to like the opinion, but you have to respect it. That's just how it is. As for Keno, I can speak from experience here, not as a player, but from a coach's standpoint. And Smitty, I think you'll understand this story too as I'm saying it. You remember Jason Henderson, right? My defensive end, drafted him, I think, one of my first drafts.
Yep.
Second draft?
Might have been.
I can't remember.
I can't remember. Might have been your first.
Either way, he was my defensive end. I drafted him. He had a great rookie season. He was poised for breakout seasons. I bring in another defensive end, Dylan Cutler. Bet a lot more people know that name now too, huh? Dylan Cutler was just a little bit better of a scheme fit for what we run. He has completely overshadowed and almost hidden the good work that Henderson does because of that. On a stacked team. Like, I'm just going to say it. I have a really stacked defense. I'm not trying to be a big head here. It's just, I do. You can get left behind. Dylan Cutler went from a 75 2 years ago to an 85 or 86 now or something like that.
He's up there.
While Henderson, who jumped up 3 overalls in his first year, has only jumped up 1 overall since Dylan Cutler came into the picture. It really can hurt you. And I just don't think guys are actually listening to that.
So here's one thing I'll say too, Bill, to kind of go back to the Amari Harris situation. As coaches in the RFL, like, guys, it cannot be overstated how little we care about your success in college versus what we want to see from you in the RFL. I honestly couldn't care less about what you do in college. But what I do care about is a player who is doing well and then suddenly sees their name pop up in controversy after controversy and debate and speculation. I don't want any of that. I'm sure Bill will agree with me on this. I don't want this constant divide. I don't want to draft a guy, and I'm learning this. I'm learning this year, going after my first draft, going into my rookie year. I had some guys that I drafted that were user submitted guys. They were good guys, and they have completely basically fallen off the radar as we head into the RFL season. And I fear that that's what a lot of you guys in the college series are going to end up doing. The reason why you go to these stacked college schools is because you get in this locker room with a bunch of guys and you make a bunch of friends, and that's great. And you don't want to lose that. You don't want to go to a team like Auburn where there's no one and you're watching all the Auburn games by yourself because no one else is on the team. But guess what? If you go to those other schools, you might perform better. And guys like Bill and I might draft you higher, and we might see the potential in you, and we will develop you faster. Don't see the big picture. You just want to go and play around in the Discord with your friends in the locker room. And that's not the big picture here, guys. The RFL and your draft stock is the goal.
Go ahead. I wish I had the applause, but my man spoke the truth right there.
Everyone knows. Every coach I think I speak for. A lot of these submitted players don't get it. I get you don't want to hear what we have to say. Fine. But at the end of the day, look, Bill, you just mentioned your defensive end, right? I did the same thing. Jimmy Bean, I think, finished second or third in offensive rookie of the year last year at the tight end position. What did I do on draft day? I traded 2 early draft picks to acquire Anthony Fry, and Anthony Fry has turned into be a great addition. He's a great guy in the locker room. He's already my number one user submitted guy in my locker room. He's been promoted to help with scouting and helping out in the front office. He's a great guy. Bean was fantastic last year. Smitty will tell you. Probably shocked that I was bringing in another tight end, but I saw the potential in what a good user submitted guy can do for a team and for a coach like me in a scheme that I run in the RFL. And you guys need to see that.
Question: who did Anthony Fry play for in the college series last year?
Texas A&M.
A&M, yeah.
Mm-hmm. How good was A&M last year?
Not that good.
Okay.
Hey,
all right.
we
And
can
what
also
was
talk
his
about
overall?
Washington State. He was a 75. I believe.
75. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If not 74, but I believe.
But he didn't go to a top school with 100 prospects.
What about what about Washington? What's it called? Washington State. QPOC.
Yeah.
They were trash.
Yeah.
And
they were the laughing stock.
You know,
unfortunately.
So, I don't get it. You know, like people don't see. Like it doesn't matter what your record is in college. It doesn't matter what accomplishments your team made in college or who your friends are. It matters about what you actually did on the field in college. And if you're going to make things more difficult for you, like, of course we want to see you up against better competition, but if you can mask that and then make it seem like you're that great, then when you go up against good competition in the RFL and you end up actually being good, you've really set yourself up for, success. Because I can't sit there and say, well, he didn't play good competition. It's a part of it, but like I can't sit there and say, oh, he didn't play good competition and then just knock you down like that. I'm going based off of what I saw. Like I was just like, look, he ain't play competition like that, but based off of how dominant he was on the field, lets me know what he's got, what capabilities he has based off of his attributes. You know what I'm saying? Like certain, like QPOC, he was burning by dudes, he was mossing dudes. Like, he did everything. And even though he didn't play the best of competition and, was on a bad team, even when he did get to go play up against some solid teams, he still balled out. That's all that matters. And you guys got to be able to see that. I don't want to stick too much on the topic because, we actually got still quite a bit of stuff to go over. But before we get into that, because we're about to get into the RFL Top 100, I want to go ahead and bring up the one last thing. We've been going for 2 weeks. This third week was a charm for us to bring the podcast back. And I was meaning to show you this weeks ago, but my PC was tripping. Hey, let's go ahead and look at who the award frontrunners are right now in the RFL College Series for Season 3. I'm about to go ahead and where's my controller here? I'm about to go ahead and set this up, and we'll go ahead and get a look at who is leading in the what you guys would call the Heisman. We call it a Mackey race.
Just don't do anything with Wisconsin, please, this time.
All right.
We don't want to crash anything.
So the way this is going to work for college is, and I'll put this up. You guys won't see our faces anymore because I'll just have the game up. Can you guys see that? Is that showing up right now?
I can. I'm waiting for it to show up over here.
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay,
I don't know if it's
showing up.
popping up. Is it?
Yeah, it showed up. I still got the week.
No,
12
it's not.
No,
I
there
don't
we
see
go.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, there we
Now
go.
it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
It was just really late.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and look at this. So offensive player of the year. Look, this isn't a franchise, so it's not like college. It's not like you got one guy here for the whole, the whole nation. So you got to go. It's one guy against another. And right now, offensive player of the years for votes is going to be Calvin Poole and D'Amico Brewer. It's just crazy. Brewer's really stepped up for Oklahoma. This guy's over Allen Mourning, even his starting quarterback, which is crazy. You usually see the quarterback who's playing well go over the running back, but
that's crazy.
Yeah, these are the leaders. You got Rocky Franklin even in the talks in this. The Otis Speller, yet guys like to throw him under the bus.
Yep.
Where he's at. Tajay Gaddy. I was surprised. Oh yeah, well he's throwing some touchdowns and stuff, so I guess that's why I got his name in there. No one else really worth going over and mentioning there. But Calvin Poole, Justin Creel, of course, after record-breaking game he's had, he's been great, but sometimes Oregon just doesn't utilize him. Monty Wyatt, Jet Blade, Leo Batiste, Austin Briley in there, and he's talking about trying to leave Michigan for Florida State. Come on now. Jack Wargo, Derek Berger. That's crazy. He's even in a conversation. Louis and Levy Dixon. So anything about these offensive players?
I mean, Calvin Poole, not surprised. D'Amico Brewer, a little bit surprised. I think this is probably a little bit of recency bias. I think D'Amico Brewer the last several weeks has been absolutely dominant. I think his stock has risen significantly in the last 2 or 3 games. I like True Bronze there. I guess I'm the running back position. Like you said, Smitty, a lot of times you see the quarterback get a little bit more love here. I think True Bronze is the leader of that Baylor team. I think they play in a difficult Big 12. Surprised to see him there. Maybe I would have him a little bit higher. I think True Bronze I'd have above Deotis Speller. Yeah, I think I'm pretty good there.
No shocks for you, Bill.
A little bit, but I mean, it's not like anything that I'm just like completely like at a loss over. Right? I mean, Brewer, like Dunn said, has had a pretty good few weeks now. Morning has been playing out of his mind to get Oklahoma, up to where they are, and Brewer's been a big help of that. I'm a little surprised to see Franklin above Speller. And I'm surprised. I mean, I don't know. I guess it is what it is, but I just feel like in my mind, if I had this, 2 through 5 or 6, I would probably mix it up a little bit and probably have like Gaddy a little higher, Speller a little higher, Bronze even a little higher. And, but I mean, overall, like, I think the players that maybe had not the greatest, most of these guys have had good team success, but some guys are going to have better like individual performances than the team does as a whole. And I think that's sort of what we're seeing here with like guys like Brewer, where maybe it hasn't been all season long, but the team itself is performing really well, and he's had himself a good few games. So it's nothing that really surprises me. I just think a little bit out of order for what I would like.
Gotcha. All right, defensive players. Not one of our guys. You got Malcolm Rodriguez here, Tyler Cage at 2.
There we go.
You got Imani Adams. He's been leading tackle for Aiden Freeman. That's not one of our guys. Sonny Williams in here, Rex McCullough, and Lennox Malone in there. That's our guys there for submitted prospects. And on the other side, we have Keegan Meyer leading there, Ohio State. Not one of our guys. Keno Thetford right there at 3. He was a guy, he dropped out. David Leathers at 7. And I just so we don't take too much time, I'll just go through each one of these, and then just at the end, y'all just tell me who y'all from the list of each award or whatever award that you were shocked for the player being there, if any. Then we got, rookies aren't a thing. All right, best quarterback, obviously Calvin Poole right now. You got Jet Blade right there underneath him, Monty Wyatt, Austin Briley, Jack Wargo. All quarterbacks are draftable. So Danny Montgomery, Corey Bird, Elliott Rivers, Berger. Dang, Berger over Pope? That's crazy.
Yikes.
Yeah, then we got I already did that. Air Seaside. Well, I'm thinking about the RFL heavy right now. Quarterback here on this side, Rocky Franklin. Okay. Tajay Gaddy, Alan Morning. I'm very surprised by that. But Rocky Franklin, maybe this is like Dunn said, some recency bias. Dude did just have like over 450 passing yards and 5 touchdowns this past week. So maybe that really helped him out. Alan Morning, there at 3. Speller at 4. Wilson 5. King 6. McCain 7. Cyrese at 8. Kira Tomo 9. And Alec Rhett 10. So those are quarterbacks. Best running backs, D'Amico Brewer, of course, Bronze, Spears, Swan, Grayson, Cooper, Matt Roper, Haskins, Baaaack, and JT. We also got Justin Krill leading this side, Leo Batiste, Levi Dixon, Darnell Hodge, JC Johnson, Brock Foltz. You got Noah Walker, Mari Bone, Dale Barkley, and Grayson LeCavalier. Going to receivers, Caleb Houston leading on his side. Rashawn Hale, he's been beasting. Chris Harris, he's been beasting as well. Jay Watt, Holloway, Basman Floyd, Outman Bell here. You got Cameron Reed here in the discussions. You got Zach Miller, Jeremiah Miller. Let's go ahead back to this side here for receivers. Devontae Sharkley, obviously, he's been killing. Enrique Bird, this is a guy, gotta peep him. He's been killing for Oklahoma. Zay Jones, obviously, has been doing the same. DJ Evans, we've seen this guy cooking defenses as of late with streaks. You got Lawson Hayes, he's been balling as well. Brian Rucker for South Carolina. Shea Carroll. Noah Rogier's in here. You got Kendrick Dixon and Amari Harris. Like I said, you got both your wide receivers in discussions in the top 10 for, best receivers. That's crazy. Linemen, we're not even going to really look at those because those are pretty much based off overall. And we got for D-line, Aiden Freeman leading D-line right now. That's not one of our guys. Lennox Malone, J.J. Reed, Christian Cross here at 6, Cam Baker at 7. And that's it for draftable prospects. We got Keegan Meyer leading on this side, Keno Thetford, Emmanuel Blackman Jr. here at 4, Joe Trippin. He ain't a guy anymore, though.
Joe Trippin.
Enjoyed calling that guy.
Hey, man, Joe Trippin.
Elijah Walker, Ed Chappa. And yeah, that's it for the line here. Best linebackers. Too bad this guy isn't, a draftable guy anymore. David Leathers. That's pretty much it right here on this side. Tyler Cage here. And we only give these awards to submitted players. So even though this Papo guy, well, no, we don't. Yeah, never mind. So, but Papo's here. I don't know who that guy is. If he's not draftable, I guess if they're draftable, that's what I meant to say. If they're draftable, we can give them an award. Tyler Cage, and Monty Adams, McCullough. Who else here? Did I already do NRC side? Ronnie Barton, too. I went through that. All right, D-backs, Mojo Rison, Robert Ivory, Jamar Jumper, Aiden Parker, Marcus Ward, Xavier Savage there at 7, and Dior Iverson at 10. Going on the other side, Robert Harper tied the record for the most interceptions. Season's not over yet. Ziggy Keens. You got Jaquan Grayson. He's been turned up for TCU. Mitch Cummings. We've seen him as well. Jaden Davis. Dwayne Knox. He's been beasting as well. Kyrie Capri. Richard Grooms. And Sonny Williams. And none of our guys here. We got DeAndre Christian. He's all the way at 9, though. And for the other side, David Fontanez. He's leading this for best kicker.
There we
and
go.
Olivia Queensell. And for the main award, going to for our Heisman, the Mackey Award, Calvin Poole is leading that, and we kind of all expected that. And Rocky Franklin at 2.
That's crazy.
That's crazy, man. Monty Wyatt, Krill at 4, Jet Blade 5, Deoda Speller 6, Alan Moore 7, Tajay Gaddy 8, Miko Brewer 9, and Wilson Bull is 10. And we don't have coaches in here, so those are the awards. Is there anybody you're shocked about? We obviously Rocky Franklin, but from looking at those, anybody you were shocked to see anywhere on this list? Done?
I can't really think back to a specific player that I was necessarily shocked at. One thing that I did notice, and I guess this is just kind of a theme for the night when talking about submitted players and transfer options in the transfer portal. In going through that linebacker list, you noticed a lot of linebackers that were not user submitted. Either they were generic guys or they were real life guys that are not draftable. I was pretty shocked. Like, let's going through this list, right? Tyler Cage was up top. I mean, you've got 2. Tyler Cage is at 2, but then Malcolm Rodriguez not draftable. Monty Adams draftable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brooks McCullough draftable. Hines not draftable. Jones not draftable.
That guy's not.
Well, Errol Thomas not draftable. Rodney Barton. So in the top 10 list there, you've only got, I think, 4 guys on that side at the linebacker position. But yet, if you look at the amount of submitted linebackers, there's tons of them. So again, it just goes to show, like, not always about the school that you go to. It's not always about the position that you pick. And then you go to like the secondary, and I noticed a lot of the guys in the secondary, most of the guys in the secondary, it seemed, were user submitted guys. The top 3 guys right there off the rip, I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
And then Savage there at 7.
I think I actually have a maybe a reasoning for why that happens with the linebackers. And I've noticed this from, obviously taking in all of the applications for the last 2 years.
Mhm.
Everybody who does a linebacker, for the most part, I know there's not all of them, always tries to make everything, right? They want to be the pass rusher, they want to be the run stopper, they want to be the pass protector, they want to do everything. So they'll put one attribute in pass rushing, they'll put an attribute in coverage, they'll put an attribute in whatever else, instead of solely focusing on one aspect of being a linebacker. Like, instead of just making a pure pass coverage linebacker or making just a pure speed rushing linebacker for a 3-4. I see guys a lot of the times dipping in multiple type of archetypes, which I think leads to guys, like you were saying, not getting some recognition and not making as many plays as they can because their guy is sort of a jack of all trades, master of none.
I agree. That's a great point because I think you're right. I think we can see the attributes that they submit, and you're right. They try to do a little bit of everything, and at the end of the day, it hurts them.
Yeah.
That's a
And
look
that's
at
why
the
guys have
awards.
to be careful with where they go and why they should try to go to their own school, especially at the front 7 positions, because depending on what archetype you end up with, you could completely suck at where you're stuck playing, right? You go to a school with 4 other people, that's 4 spots that you can't, or 3 other spots you can't go to, 4 other spots. You go to a school where you are the only guy there, or maybe one of 2. Now you have the ability to move inside, play outside, play in the D line if it's a 4-3. There's other opportunities there when you don't limit yourself. But when you go to a school where it's just stacked with everybody, those positions are already taken. So either you're going to suck or you're not going to suck. And you just got to hope for the best.
And not for nothing, one thing I noticed too, and this is the last thing I'll say about that is, if you looked at those wide receiver rankings, there was in that top 10 list, I think 4 of them from that side, from that conference, whatever it was, were in the Pac-12. So it's kind of common sense that the Pac-12 is very offensive forward, and you see wide receivers in the Pac-12 have a lot of success. And so I'm not shocked to see, I think there was a USC guy up there. There was an Oregon guy up there. Maybe there was 2 USC guys up there. It's not surprising. But again, when I get on these rants about talking about going to schools that are a good fit for offensive skill positions, look at the rankings that you just saw. Think about that and be smart in where you want to transfer to.
Yeah, and the guys just gotta figure it out. And like I said, don't just try to transfer this for hype, man. Just do what you know is best for your player. What's going to get you the best draft stock. That's all that matters. But now that we've covered pretty much all of our topics, we got one more topic, and of course that is the RFL Top 100. Is Rozier set up here, Bill?
Who?
You got not.
I don't know who Rozier you're trying to put on this show, but
You not that Noah. Okay.
There
But
he
anyway,
is.
we got Noah
you
on
should
the
know
show,
my name
man.
by now.
Nah, I mean, I know your name, but was I incorrect? Your both name is Noah. But anyway,
That's what I was talking about before, chat. He knows he's wrong, and he's still just trying to argue it. You see that guy?
There's one guy that deserves Noah and one guy that's staying with
my
Rozier.
God.
You going to flame? Oh man, that's messed up. But let's
No
go
mercy,
ahead
man.
and get a look at. This is going to be a pretty lengthy one in terms of the amount we're going to show. We showed 20 last time. We're going to add 10 more to that. So we're going to show the next 30 players from 80 to 51 right now. We're looking to also see if we could do the exact same next week. Maybe 50 through 21. So we'll see about getting that done. So first off, let's go ahead and start with number 80. I don't have anything to cover it at the moment, so I'm gonna just pop it up and it'll show who it is. Let me get my list up here. Coming in,
I'm excited.
at number 80 in the RFL Season 6 Top 100 is an offensive lineman, and it is Zach Ballentine. And he got 79 votes here, coming in at number 80. He's been around in Pro Bowls and things like that for quite some time. It's good to see, of course, linemen getting in here. You guys already know if it was up to me, probably wouldn't have been that many on here.
Probably not.
But yeah, so he's in that 80. Not really too much to say, about Ballantyne, but he's been a solid lineman.
Yeah, 7
Half the
sacks
reason.
given up this year.
Oh, go ahead.
So not 7 sacks given up this year, so not too bad. Solid guy. There's really not much to say, but thought I'd throw that in there.
And we
I was just gonna say, like
a little bit, because this is 30
I just wanted to
guys.
say
Yeah.
this guy's half the reason NO3 is who he is today. I think that he's been a staymate on that front line there for the Lancers.
Guy's not half of anything, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, that's a boulder right there with arms. But we're gonna go ahead and move.
It looks like he got built over a butterbean or something.
Yeah, you do look like Butterbean. That's crazy. Roasting. Let's play the Bellum. Well, we got number 79 coming in is going on the defensive side of the ball at the safety position, playing for Chicago. And on the NRC side of the ball, it is Nate Frank. 79 votes coming in at number 79. This guy is, even though his team struggles, he's just a ball hawk. Does a great job of just attacking the ball. Always tough. You got to think twice when you're going to challenge the Tigers secondary with a deep shot. We've seen a couple of big plays for him too in the end zone where guys were trying to throw, and he's came up big, as you can see here in this photo. Interception on the Thunderbirds here. Thoughts, Noah?
This is a guy that I got really hurt by some of our voters, including yourself, Smitty, by not having him on the list. This is a guy that I think is top 30.
He should have been too much on the list, though.
Okay, let me tell you this. 115 tackles,
That's
5
cool.
interceptions, 3 deflections, and a touchdown. This guy is a top 3 safety in the league, I think. That's just my opinion. But if he was on a better team, then you'd be talking about him every week. Dominant player.
I think we're gonna move on here.
I just don't know, because I talked to the last time and you told me to shush it pretty much. So I don't know if you want me to.
I was talking to
shush
everyone
it.
in general. Like, we gotta be quick because this is 30 guys here. Man,
Okay, fine. I think Nate Frank is really awesome, and I think that maybe he's not top 3, but I do think that you're a little underselling him too, Smitty. So I'm in the middle.
I mean, to have him 79,
Hot dog.
80s range, 90s maybe. But bro, those statistics you read, there's a lot of guys who've had those. But
no, actually, not really.
Ooh, he comes prepared. You can't get it.
We can look it up
past him like that.
We can look it up. You looking
We'll
at what
do
his
that
stats
later.
is. We'll do that.
Real quick, one thing I like about Nate Frank, he's got 3 years left under contract. He's already 30 years old, so he's likely to retire with the Tigers unless they move him, and I don't imagine that they will, especially with the new coach looking to utilize him on that defense. So I like the fact that we're looking at a guy who's probably going to finish out his career with the Tigers.
Moving on to 78. This guy, really came on the scene. I remember his first year, he was a huge free agent signing for the Crusaders. And after the first season, it was just like, okay, this guy really didn't live up to the hype. But after that, this guy was balling, made huge plays for his size. And you guys already from that point, you know what I'm talking about. Elijah Bentley coming in here at number 78. Small guy, but he gives me AB type vibes in his prime, man. Makes a lot of big catches, and good to see him on the list. But he got injured. I know it was last year. Did he get injured this year too as well? I'm blanking on that.
I don't think he got injured this year, but I could be wrong.
But one thing I do remember from this past season is that we were talking about the guy just simply wasn't getting the ball enough like he should have, and so maybe that maybe hurt him a little bit. But we already know what type of talent EB got.
Yeah, he was over 1,000 yards this year, averaging 14 yards a reception, which isn't as good as some of the other people on this list. Only 6 touchdowns as well, but as you said, he wasn't able to get the ball as much as some other people, and he wasn't really put in great positions. I remember him being on a lot of those little bubble screens and things. So Chrome has him in his top 25, which I'm really interested to hear why he did that. But I do think this is a solid player, and obviously, a year or two ago when he had that dominant season and was disrupted by injury, I think eventually he'll get one breakout, and he'll be he could be a top 3 or 4 receiver in the league if it all comes together.
I think he's a great receiver. I'm still just trying to figure out if you want me to talk or if you want me to just let it rock out.
Anybody can talk because we're kind of moving.
30
right,
seconds
so-
or less.
A 30, I'm going to take 5. I just think that he is severely underrated because of the rest of the team that he's playing on right now. The Crusaders didn't have the best year last year, and we saw what he can do when he's game planned properly.
I'm just waiting on regression to hit. And
Yeah,
he's not a spring chicken anymore, so I don't expect him to move up any higher on this list. I can't imagine he gets any higher at any point the rest of his career. I expect him to move down from this point.
All right, so moving on to number 77. He's been a household name at the linebacker position. Got the name coined Buckshot, so guys should already know who that is. Coming from Salt Lake City, it's Mr. Antoine Buck. And he comes in at number 77, 82 votes. The basic stuff to say about a guy who's just been a consistent linebacker, big-time playmaker. When you talk about the Elks defense, it's two guys. It's Garrison Ash, of course, threat number 1, and then, threat number 1A, and then it's Antoine Buck, 1B. And that's pretty much all I got to say. I'm not trying to spend too much time on the players.
Antoine Buck, 152 tackles this year. 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 4 deflections. This is another guy that you just have him in the middle of your defense, and he can do a little bit of everything. A very solid player.
I just think he's like that old school linebacker that just is going to try to hit you as hard as he can right in the mouth every single play. You don't see a lot of them anymore. You see more of the guys that are a little bit smaller and pass coverage, but this guy, he just wants to hit you, and he does.
Yeah, and all I'm going to say again is regression. I mean, we're looking at a guy who's 31 years old. Like, at some point, he's got to come down a little bit. And they've got a 22-year-old outside linebacker ready to take his place. So at what point do you start giving Jerry Cruz a little bit more reps? And what does that do for Antoine Buck?
You're gonna get Smitty all sorts of riled up. You tell him you start talking about benching old players.
If you think just because
Smitty will have a hernia right here on the stream.
Some of y'all have been taking some L's to players like that y'all thought was trash because y'all looking at the overall.
I'm not saying trash. I'm just saying 31.
When I say trash, I don't mean like as if you think they're a bum or anything, but I mean like guys look at him. Oh, he's a 77. Then you getting cracked by the guy for fumble loss or touchdown. But anyway. Moving on to number 76, we have at the defensive tackle position on one of the youngest teams in the RFL trying to build a dynasty. Justin Jones, man, shout out to him, how he's doing overseas. But, hey, there's no way you couldn't have him on this list. We don't call him Nah-Son for no reason. Nashawn Richardson, 76, 85 votes. He's just very nimble at the defensive tackle position. I mean, this guy almost moves like a DN as a tackle, and he could get back there really fast. He's got some serious speed on him. He's got some serious moves. And one thing I seen out of his game this past year that I seen a way more than last year was his ability to straight up manhandle an offensive lineman. He was bulldozing guys, running straight through them, and that resulted in a ton of plays in the backfield.
82 tackles, 23 tackles for loss, and 5 sacks for nasty Nashawn Richardson. Big clog in the middle of that defense. Love watching him play, except when we play him. But great player. Would love to have him on any team. That's a guy that's a plug and play starter on any team.
Yeah, I think that this guy was one of the best D tackles out of the entire league, in all honesty, because he provides that pass rush ability. And one thing I think a lot of people were a little concerned about just because of his size is how well he can play the run. But like you guys said, tackles for loss is really the key of like, okay, how are you playing in the run game? And it's apparent that it don't matter. He's just too good to be denied, whether it's the running game or the passing game.
Yeah, it's just so young. I mean, I really hope he's got 2 years left on his contract. You just hope that the Steamers are able to re-sign this guy because he hopefully he's with them the longevity of his career.
And moving on to number 75 in the RFL Top 100. Older name came in a free agency, and, this team has been playing musical chairs with running backs. But at the end of the day, this old head came in and he balled, man. He just came in off a trade I think he was with the Marshals at the time.
Oh.
And when he came over here to the T-Birds, he just lit it up. And man, Rayshon Overstreet over 1,000 yards. He actually outperformed better than I thought he would. And then some. Got 87 votes here. It's not really too much to say about him. I just really liked how he played last year. He had a very solid season, man. He outperformed my expectations. That's all I'll say.
Don't undersell it. Over 12,000 yards, and also adding 600 yards receiving as a running back, something that's very difficult to do, especially in this league. 9 combined touchdowns. Toronto's known for their running game. They've always been able to get a lot out of even like guys like there were 75 overall. No one expected to do anything. Overstreet was able to take that position to a whole nother level this year. Great player. Hate that we have to play him, but
I do too. Especially if he's going to run
dominant.
for 12,000 yards a season. That's insane.
I was not expecting that at all from him, to be honest.
Nobody's catching my joke here.
Nah, I seriously didn't get it. What was it?
Noah, I think unless he's either talking career stats or just had a mishap of words, he said 12,000 yards this season. I was like, whoa, that's a lot of yards. That's like 800 yards a game. No, but Overstreet's he's been a mainstay in the league. Yeah, he fell off a little bit with the Marshals, but this is the perfect running back for the Thunderbirds. They don't know how to make up their mind with the running backs. He gets, a solid year or two. They get to change their mind again, and there's no hard feelings. So good fit for him.
Yeah, this guy's old. That's the last thing I'll say.
It's just dead air for 3 seconds. This guy is old.
This guy's old, man. But we'll go ahead and move on to number 74 coming up. And we are going to move on to a veteran. Been around since, I believe, season 1 of the RFL at the tight end position. We've got some pretty dope tight ends that's been here in the RFL.
Yeah, we do.
Guy who, even retired this year, and Brandon Cushion with the, Sentinels playing back in his time. We got for the Portland Riverhogs, very athletic, tough to stop when running routes, and this guy just a do-it-all tight end. And Randy Shropshire coming in 74 in the RFL top 100, and just like I said, not really too much to say about him. Just a very athletically gifted tight end that is hard to cover, whether it be a linebacker, safety, whoever you got on him. The guy can run routes, can get open, and can make plays and get yak.
Yeah, 102 receptions. That's second among tight ends. 1,100 yards and 4 touchdowns, which isn't great when comparing him to the rest of the tight ends in this category, but still a great season for him. And then, of course, we know about the Hunter Mackey touchdown situation this past season. So, Rainey Shropshire, great player to have on that team, being able to throw him the ball when you're in a tight spot. This is a good player.
And even to add just real quick to that, like about the 4 touchdowns, may not have been a lot, but let's remember what the Riverhogs did. They just ran it down your throats, and when they got in the red zone, it was Dre Shivers time. Guy led the league in touchdowns, tied with Langford Cloud. So, yeah.
Yeah, this guy is so good. I mean, you don't even know, the defense doesn't even know which position he's playing because he wears the stupidest number you can choose for a tight end. But yeah, he's really good.
Or anybody in football, really.
Anybody. 49 is an ugly number.
Hey, homeboy wore it since season 1 before your time.
I don't care.
Stop hating on him.
He can wear it since 200 BC. It still doesn't make it look any cooler on the football field.
He looks cool with it.
But if he,
What'd you say, Dunn?
nah, never mind. Never mind.
All right, moving on. This cornerback really excelled once he got here. I remember him being with the Sacramento Miners, and then actually I believe Dunn's here, and he got traded over, and homeboy kind of balled out. Homeboy kind of balled out. Hey,
Talking about DR?
Yeah, DR coming in at number 73. DeAndre Russell, 90 votes. Dude went over there and just, I don't know what it was, just turned up and just handled
Then
his
I
business.
can't wait. If you're going to put DeAndre Russell on this list, I can't wait to see where you put Jason DePape, because that was what the trade was, and DePape did as well, if not better than Russell after the trade. So let's go, Noah. No pressure or anything.
84 tackles, 6 interceptions, 13 deflections. Better on all categories than your boy DePape, but it is what it is. Yeah,
not after the trade.
Russell is a shutdown guy. Getting all those interceptions, that's something he's up there towards the top of the league. So another great performer. Not really much you can say.
Let's just look at how he's looking in this picture. I feel like he's looking at Dunn. I told you.
I told you.
Don't trade me. I told you.
So you know what's funny? It's funny that he's here because the week after that trade went through, I'm pretty sure we played the Black Knights.
Yeah.
And DeAndre Russell had an interception. I think he had an interception and he had a fumble recovery run back for a touchdown. And I was just like, oh my God, you gotta be kidding me. But then, I mean, Jason DePape played great for me. I think DePape had 5 interceptions after the trade for me. So
he's gonna try to shamelessly plug his other players.
and I got a young offensive lineman. It wasn't just a straight up trade.
Save it for your show, buddy.
No, out here with these shots.
Oh my God.
I hate this guy. But anyway.
This guy's
moving on to number 72. Another very talented tight end. He wasn't in season 1 because, of course, he came through in the expansion. Was he? I'm kind of.
It's only something you would know.
But yeah, I'm trying to. I was thinking of something, and if this guy was here in season 1, and if he was with the ARC before going to the NRC, I think he was. So he is a season 1 player. He didn't start in the NRC.
Why don't you just put it up so we can tell you if he is or not?
I had to think about it before. I have to do the introductions, my boy. Why don't you just take off
tell me
that bum Wisconsin hat? How about that? I can say a lot of things.
Oh, that was a good one.
It was a great
good one. Let's go all the way back to the college series for our insults.
Yeah, let's do that.
We're in the RFL now.
Hey, college series right now. That roast was right now. But anyway, tight end, Griffin Pritchett. Hey, this guy's he's just a talented tight end. Same deal as Rainey Shropshire, man. Like the same boat. Veteran tight end who's been here since the beginning, still getting it done. And that's all I really got to say about him. You know, great job making the list.
Yeah, over 900 yards and 8 touchdowns this season for him. I would personally put Shropshire above him, but I do think that this is another great option to have at tight end. Not really much you can complain about.
Old guy, plays good. Good job.
To you, Bob.
All right, moving on to number 71. Going to the defensive side of the ball. This guy, remember coming in, he got traded to go on to the Toronto Thunderbirds. Was on the Steamers initially, I believe. Yeah, and then he got traded before Justin got there, and Justin was hot about that. But the guy still did what he needed to do over there in Toronto. Coming in at 71, D-tackle Max Moore, 95 votes. Once again, just an anchor up front. Dude,
Look at that little head.
Yeah, his head small. Well, the dude had, if I'm not mistaken, he might have actually led the Thunderbirds in sacks on the team. I believe he did. This guy was.
That is not true.
He didn't let you finish that. I'm gonna let you finish, but you're wrong. You just pulled a spitty.
I believe Max Knight led the.
You said him, I believe, and you don't have the proof, so don't even say that.
I know he's above him. I don't know if there's another player
gonna tell
above
me,
that.
You're wrong. He don't even got the proof. Get out of here.
Max Knight had 12 sacks. Max Knight had 12 sacks. Max Moore had 11. I just don't know if there's a guy above both of those guys. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, no.
Max Moore, 59 tackles, 11 sacks, as I said, 2 forced fumbles. Another great guy on the interior. Defensive tackles don't have as much clout as far as sacks are concerned. This guy does. So put him up there. Good stuff.
What was the sack total for him again?
11.
He's
really good.
That's good.
So good.
That's great. So great.
And this is another situation. It's another situation like you guys were talking about before, where that's an amazing D line, and everybody on that line gets stuff because of the other guys. So Something to keep in mind.
Okay, moving into the 10th player to show here. Once again, going back to Memphis on the Steamers, another veteran player. This guy balled out this year, made a lot of big time plays. Was a ball hawk and at that safety position. JT Casey coming in at number 70, the same amount of votes, 95. Like I said, just a playmaker. He was really good in the red zone. When teams got in the red zone and tried to throw for touchdowns, he made a lot of big plays. It was one game, I can't remember exactly what team it was that he was playing, but I think it might have been the Snowhawks where he was marching down the field. No, it was definitely the Snowhawks. I know that Mitch.
Was it?
Yeah, it was hating. No, it was sick that that JT was making those plays, because it was one, I think, that giddily threw an interception just straight to him. It was terrible. And then another one when they were marching down the field and he just picked it off for a pick six. This guy's just a natural ball hawk. And, Justin, I can see why he really rocks with dude. Dude's a beast.
Yeah, 97 tackles, 5 picks, 5 deflections, and a touchdown. This is a very solid safety. The Steamers' defense is just so good, but even so, this guy is one of those that just is a bit above everybody else. Love to have him on the list here.
Yeah, I respect a lot of what the Steamers defensive players do, because they are such a good unit, and he's sort of one of the catalysts for that defense, I think.
The only thing I'll say here is free agent at the end of the year, so it'll be interesting to see if the Steamers are able to re-sign him and how they can structure a contract if he becomes a free agent and where he might be next season.
That's another guy that's old too. Is he in his 30s yet? He might be 30.
Watch it be 24.
He's 30.
He's 30. Yeah. All right, moving on. We talk about old guys. Let's go talk about some young guys that's been tearing up the league. I believe this was his second year in the league. We knew his first year, the guy was balling at the running back position. Got hurt, really couldn't finish out the season like that. But this year, took a team that we thought wouldn't be anything this year. And
you're skipping somebody.
I am.
Oh, he's skipping somebody.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Jeez,
that's the next guy.
Please.
But we stand on the
What is this madness?
Stand on the defensive
That's
side.
why
of the
I'm
bell,
here, man.
And I'll play the bell because
you better play the bell.
Because you guys should know
You
who this
skip
is.
the bell.
You
Too
playing
much
the
on
bell
yourself.
because it's church time. Coming in at
No.
69. It's Dewan Church of the Voyagers. This guy
Always
is
the
a
fucking
beast
bell, man.
at the
Messed
DN.
up.
Is a beast
messed
at
up.
the DN spot. I played the bell for church. That's what.
No, you need to play the bell for you.
I played the
and
bell
you can't
for
be
church.
skipping it
Hey,
when
no,
you do
no,
things
No,
that earn a bell.
Yo, we gotta
Nope.
take what we can get. We know
You're not
we know
above the
what that
bell.
meant.
Nobody
We know what
is
that
above
bell
the
meant.
bell.
you're not above church. But anyway,
You need to go to church.
I'm in church. I played the bell for my service. You the one trying to dodge it. You ain't went the bell for church. But anyway, 76. Number 76. That number just threw me off. 69, 97 votes.
Nice.
He was a beast on the D line for the Voyagers. And the defense of the Voyagers was really solid with this guy, man. A lot of big plays. Big reason why he's on the list here. Dewan Church. Any other things about him?
Yeah, Big Daddy is what I call him. Big Daddy Juwan Church. 61 tackles, 13 sacks. 13 sacks. I love this guy. I'll just say that. I love this guy.
You got another pause button. There you go.
Getting all up. Hey. Drop it if you know. But a big play guy. Love this guy on the Voyagers. Yeah, that's it.
Hold on, does Noah love this guy?
He loves this guy.
Oh, I love
He
this
loves
guy.
him.
I love him. Love this guy. That's why he's 69.
I think it got weird enough. We don't need to hear the rest of the thoughts on church, man. He gave them all.
They're gonna get married in a church.
So many metaphors.
So many, man. And now we can talk about the young guy. I already explained about him helping the Monarchs. This guy has been a huge addition to the team after retirement of Curtis Bailey. He stepped up in a huge way and has really helped lead the offense to bigger things. Of course, acquiring weapons at the receiver position, and of course, is stepping up Preston Schroeder. But he has helped to make that process easier based off of his play. It's Donovan Rhodes. coming into his third year. This was his second year, which he's ranked here at 68, which is solid. But we already know this guy is going to be on the up and up. He's going to be one of the top backs for sure in the future of this league, and well deserving of being in the top 100 list.
Yeah, over 1,300 yards, 4.5 average, and 10 touchdowns. Yeah, this is a very good back, especially with turning that London team around. I mean, they went from being laughing stock of the league, obviously, to a serious contender, or a team that you could see making waves in the playoffs in the next couple of seasons. So this guy's future is very bright, but his current self is also a great place to be. Yeah, great player.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing as what Noah said, man, is this Monarchs team probably doesn't have the turnaround it does without him. So
yeah, so the thing that I'm going to say here is this is a Monarchs team that I think has to look towards the future. And with pending free agency coming here for Donovan Rhodes, are they going to want to give him the money that he probably is requesting? Because if they do, and if they do re-up him and they give him a multi-year deal, what does that do for their cap? And does that take away their ability to sign younger players and possibly bring in other free agents or draft picks that could help them in the future? So I think it'll be interesting to see. We could be talking about Donovan Rhodes playing for a different team next season.
And I think that Madden took out the 5th-year option anyway, so tying this guy down isn't going to be as easy as it probably should be.
Smitty won't let him go.
Going to get signed.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Smitty's going to pull out the commish card, like, yeah, this we don't do the no.
Ever let it?
It's going to take a little more dough.
Because he wants to play in Columbus. That's why.
Bro, you got too many backs over there. He
Not
would have
enough.
50 backs on the team and run all of them.
Give you Ferrazzi for him right now.
That's the one back he don't want. Moving on to another young guy that's been tearing up the league since coming in. And this was a big year for him. Made a lot of big contested catches. Was always a speed burn, but I really felt like he developed his game from not just being just that deep threat. He was mossing guys, running better routes, creating separation. And I know Eric doesn't like this guy at all because he got cooked his rookie year in both games. Playing for the Brooklyn Barons. It's the speedster. It's the playmaker, Amari Manuel. Getting 108 votes. I already said all I need to say about this guy. This guy is definitely going to be a heck of a beast and top wide receiver in this league in the future if he's not already.
Yeah, you're going to have to remind me. I don't think he got injured, but if he, because the reason I say that is he only was able to get 67 receptions this year, which is a lot lower than everybody else on here. So we'll say that that's the case. Just under 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, which is third in wide receivers. So no, fourth, excuse me. But this is a guy. This is a freak of nature. Pairing him with Joe Johnson just made him better. And this is a player that I could see being, like, if he isn't already, one of the top 5 receivers in the game by the end of his career.
Very underrated receiver, I think. I know very well of him being in the NRC North, but I don't think he gets a lot of recognition around the entire league. He's still got his best years ahead of him, I think. He's just getting started here in the RFL, and I think one of the most dynamic receivers, honestly, in the RFL right now.
I think he benefited from the touchdowns. I mean, I don't think that if you've got a wide receiver that has double-digit touchdowns, they are under 75 total receptions. To me, that says that you've got a wide receiver that's ranking and overall ability or whatever is kind of dependent on them getting in the end zone. I don't know if he's going to have the success and the efficiency of getting in the end zone moving forward. I would expect the touchdowns to come down. Hopefully the receptions go up, but that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, the guy still had over a stack with 65, you said?
I just moved off of it.
Yeah, Roland said that he didn't miss a game, so I think it was just Joe Johnson
but
getting...
But that meant he was maximizing on minimal targets.
Yeah, he was.
That guy was killing. But moving on, 66, coming in at the defensive end position, used to be a linebacker. And for the Mexico City Diablos, it's Dre Dawkins, 118 votes. Coming in at 66. This, like, I seen what Coach Forbes did with him. He kind of moved him inside at D tackle, and I always felt like, you know, he did his thing at D tackle, but like, I always liked him at the linebacker spot. But I get why he put him there. But I just feel like he don't have the size really to do that, to be there, to be that dominant. He had his X factor that really helped him out and everything like that. But I mean, this guy, if he's doing that at what he did this year, just moving to a defensive tackle position when he never played that, and you know, this guy was mainly at linebacker and edge rusher and stuff like that. You know, he just shows the versatility of Dawkins and why he's deserving to be on this list. Been a big time playmaker before he even got here to Mexico City, but yeah, beast.
Yeah, we got 60 tackles, 20 TFLs, 12 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. So putting him right up there on the line, being that dominant pass rusher, I think 20 TFLs is like way up there for the edge position, as we'll call it. But Dawkins, great player. He's gonna be on that in the offensive coordinator's nightmares for a long time.
And I like the situation. Sorry, Bill. I like where he's at in terms of his age, his ability, his contract. I think everything plays well for the Diablos in this one, and I think it's like Noah said, 20 tackles for loss. Like that's significant. So I think maybe this was a good move to get him up onto the defensive front.
I don't like it.
Why don't you like it, Bill?
I just, what does he weigh? Like 250 pounds?
Yeah,
44.
Man, at D tackle, I didn't like that. I was
Like,
just
I'm not saying he's
was
not
he's
playing
doing
good.
his job, but like I was.
He moved him at D tackle?
Yeah, he was at D tackle, bro. He was at D
I thought
tackle.
he was an end.
No.
He usually plays on the end or outside linebacker. This dude was literally in the middle of the defense.
I thought you weren't allowed to play defensive
I'm
tackle.
still curious how that.
He had to be 300 pounds to
I
be a
remember
D tackle.
I can't remember exactly what it is, but he was at the sense able to do it because, well, you can change.
For formation subs.
Yeah. If you the formation, it can only be through like a depth chart type of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
You can't change the actual position, but like, yeah, that's what happened. But yeah, I still don't like him at D tackle.
I just think that, I mean, yes, he did great at D tackle, but I just think that this guy's true calling is to play linebacker, and I think he would be even much more of an impact at that position. But I agree.
But I understand at the same time why he did it, because let's not forget Diablos got Marvin Woolfolk, and that was all they needed at the edge now.
Yeah.
Who was the other guy? They had another Timothy Staten, the rookie. So if Dre's going to get any playing time, I guess he just said, "Oh, let me throw him in the middle." He did his job though. And so,
yeah, he did. I didn't say he played bad. It's just a little off to me, I guess.
Yeah, playing D tackle is just weird to see. Moving up to 65 offensive linemen. So not going to be much to talk about here. Dylan Rollins, one of Bill's old guys at the lineman spot here.
And old Diablo.
Votes, 65. Yep, used to be a Diablo as well. Another veteran old lineman that's been around, up Pro Bowls, top tier guy. So that's all I gotta say about him. Beast.
Yep, only giving up 3 sacks this season. Great offensive lineman, obviously. Mitchie just has a pretty stacked O-line. So some things go under the rug, but Dylan Rollins is definitely one of those top guys.
Can they play linebacker?
He drafted 6 of them or something like that, so I think he'll be good.
Yeah.
Get him. Bella.
Oh, look how quick you are to bell now, huh?
Uh-huh.
Not before.
You know the rules.
But what's it called? Y'all done, right? Anybody else is
saying yeah, we're good.
Moving on to the next player at defensive back.
The crap out of me at first. I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah, moving on to the next defensive back at the next player. Excuse me, he's a defensive back. Was a shutdown as soon as he came in the league. Hot commodity out of free agency. His second year kind of toned down a bit, but at the end of the day, you don't want to line up against this guy unless you know you got mad skills. And Keanu Jones of the Chicago Cougars comes in at 64. He kind of started out the season a little bit slow. He saw sometimes, even Rob having, some thoughts about him, say he's not really, strapping up like he did last season. But you really saw as the season got on, he started making plays just like that on this poster. So, he really turned things around. One of the top cornerbacks still in the series. Don't matter, how the season started out, ended it well. And, of course, got his team back to the playoffs. So, beast cornerback. Great asset for the Cougars.
Yeah, really missing Rob so we can talk up this guy. But 74 tackles, 4 interceptions, 9 deflections. I know that teams were avoiding this guy a little bit towards the end of the season. Just a great lockdown corner. And Rob will tell you that till the end of time.
Yeah, he came out of nowhere, but, I mean, he's turned into one of the best corners in the RFL for good reason. You don't want to have to throw at him. If you're throwing his way, you're taking a lot of gambles. So I think he's still got the best years ahead of him too.
Yeah, he's only 25 years old. So I mean, with 94 overall, and he's only 25 years old. So at some point, we're probably looking at a guy who's going to reach that 99 overall.
Yeah, peace. Okay, moving on. Talk about a nightmare cornerback to match up against. Let's talk about a nightmarish wide receiver, a veteran that's been around.
You're skipping people again.
I am?
Yep.
How many bells are you going to skip, Smitty?
His name is Skip. The guy's name is Skip.
Yeah, so who is, okay. It's, okay, the next one is a linebacker. Man, I had such a nice roll into that if that was the next guy. But anyway, linebacker here. For the Bisons, and he's been, another one of those consistent linebackers, deserving to be on this list. And he's just a big time playmaker. He forces fumbles. Guys just always all over the place for the Bisons, and that's Tyrone Dugans coming in at 63. I remember when this guy got injured, and the whole Bisons defense fell apart in season 5. He was much more healthier this season. And, the defense, the team benefited a little bit more with him being back in the lineup. 120 votes coming in here at 63. Thoughts on Dugans?
161 tackles, 3 interceptions, 6 deflections. As you said, he's right up the middle. He's got that pass coverage ability with those plays right there. He probably gets overlooked a little bit because of the team he's on, but dominant force up the middle. You don't want to mess with this guy.
He got 150 tackles?
Yes, he did.
Holy macaroni.
I can tell you 16 of them were against me. I have to face this guy twice a year, so looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Now let's go ahead and talk about that wide receiver I was mentioning earlier. This guy was an absolute beast. It's like the older he gets, it's like you don't see any dip off in his performance, man. The guy is just just a big time playmaker. He reminds you, like, I kind of feel like he gets underrated in a sense. Like, everybody knows he's good. I'm not going to say he's all the way underrated, but I do feel like he's like a top 5 wide receiver in this league. And here he is coming in at 62, and that's Sylvester Leach, 122 votes for him. The Riverhawks ran a lot this past season, but when they had to throw the ball and they needed a big play, number 81 was the guy to call, and he made a lot of big plays this season, over 1,000 yards, which I know Noah will get into. But Leach, this guy, well deserving to be on the list. Beast.
Go ahead.
You want to? Okay, fine. Thanks, Dad. All right, 79 receptions, over 12,000 yards, almost 1,300 yards. 16.1 average on reception and 5 touchdowns. Once again, tough that up to Dre Shivers. You're right. He doesn't get talked about in that top 5 conversation. And depending on the quarterback play of that's coming up in this season, we'll see if he's able to be there. But I do think that he is a very talented player, and like, I would not want to line up against him for sure.
And I was just going to say before, you're very underrated, I think, and that's just because I don't think he gets as much exposure on the team, and also he gets overshadowed by Dre Shivers being an absolute maniac on the field.
Moving on, going on the defensive side of the ball again, rookie season coming in, cracking the top 100. Talked about him earlier. The Mexico City Diablo, the edge rusher. Tied in, was this, he tied in sacks? No, I don't think he was the one tied in sacks. But
That was us.
Yeah, Timothy Staten, yeah, take credit for that. But Timothy Staten,
I will.
124 votes, 61. He comes in at this guy I wasn't expecting him to be a rookie. I mean, who was talking about Timothy Staten? Well, we kind of was, but like we kind of thought he was just going to be somebody on the team, just be all right. This guy was killer. Of course, you knew it because you wearing his alma mater hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was solid over there with the Badgers when he played, but the team still was trash. But at the end of the day,
He's a hater right now, man.
Timothy Staten, well deserving to be on the list.
Skipping hater.
It's good to see him at 61, man. It's good to see him, I guess.
Yeah, 58 tackles, 13 sacks on the season for Mr. Staten. I was also a fan of him, mainly just because no one was talking about him, and that's just how my brain works. But I do
because of your dad.
Yeah,
exactly.
I do like him because of my dad
exactly.
also. But Timothy Staten, he's much deserving of this list. Great player.
You're a bell skipping hater right now,
anything
Smitty.
About the Badger, dude?
He's awesome. We already know it.
Huh?
Yeah, he's good. I knew he was going to be good, and he was good. And guess what? I like him unless I play him. But he's pretty good. And you need to bell yourself twice at some point before this podcast ends.
I sure enough don't.
You bell skipping hater.
Man, I skipped the bells when I talked about Wisconsin today, didn't I?
No, you did.
I did.
You brought Wisconsin up 4 more times than you had to.
Did I bell
make sure that you drove that point home.
All
yeah,
right.
whatever.
Anything you want to say about? Oh, yeah, done you in the other conference. You probably don't want to talk about them. But staying on the defense side of the ball at the linebacker position, ever since he came in and guy won defensive rookie of the year, the guy has been honestly like, and this team had linebackers before he even got there that were mainstay names, but he just has always elevated and has been able to come in and play right away at that same intensity and level. And, he's the anchor of this defense for Brooklyn. And for the Brooklyn Bulls, we have Jack Brown coming in at 60, 126 votes for him. I already said all I need to say about him. Just a great young linebacker that just is everywhere.
155 tackles, 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. He got a pick. He got 6 deflections. This guy can do it all. And being a part of what do I say about the Bulls? Underwhelming, maybe, is what we could say for them, but a great season nonetheless.
So I will say the one fumble recovery he has, that came against me in week 1. One of the 2 forced fumbles that he had on the season, one of them came against me in week 1. He had, 5 pass deflections? The only team that he had multiple pass deflections against was me and the Sacramento Miners in week 1. So I can attest to Jack Brown being a beast. Just hoping that I don't have to face him. I haven't even looked ahead. I'm pretty sure we probably don't play them this year. So I will be grateful for not seeing Jack Brown on the field this year.
It's just a freak of nature. He's like 6'5".
Yeah, his build is.
He's like 90 speed or something like that.
85. He's got 85 speed. So he's 6'7". He's got 85 speed.
That's what it is. He's 6'7". This guy's out here a small forward or power forward playing linebacker. That's crazy.
Could have a lot more pass deflections.
Let's talk about an even younger linebacker that is beasting here in the RFL. Once again, going back to the Monarchs, we talked about Donovan Rhodes. The defense has gotten better also for the Monarchs, and it's because this guy, they needed pieces, especially after the doofus coach that they had before did what he did. But hey, Kenny Summer, man, this guy is a beast. And he's going to be, as the future, goes on, one of those top linebackers in the league. And I just can't wait to see, just how great he gets.
Yeah, this isn't a guy that a lot of people talk about, but for me, this is a statistical warrior. 150 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 4 picks, and 6 deflections. This guy just making plays all over the field, especially on pulling up that Monarchs team. You love to see it.
Sort of like to take some credit for his performance last year, and this is going to sound big-headed, but I mean it. So we had a coach for the Monarchs, not the doofus one you were referring to. That was here for a little bit. And I remember I was talking to him. Yeah, I was talking to him a little bit about some stuff when he was new, and I remember there was a veteran that was over the top of him, I think. There was like an older linebacker that was starting over him. And I told him, I said, man, you got to get this guy on the field, man. You have got to get Summer involved in the game plan. And now I sort of wish I hadn't, because now it's another linebacker we're going to have to worry about for the next few years. But this guy just had a great year. I know that they got a lot, but they have a couple linebackers that are really young that are going to start developing, and this guy's going to lead the way. And this Monarchs team is on the come up, and it's going to be something to watch.
Well, it's easy to come up when you're at the bottom.
It is.
Yeah, but they kind of came up heavy though. This
fast.
Year, they came up fast.
Everybody
was talking about they're gonna be in the playoffs, and then Mitch and spoiled their season, the last game of the season. So I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to see what the Monarchs do in the future here. Still staying on the linebackers and on the defensive side of the ball, another veteran, and this guy's been here since season 1. And when you talk about the ideal linebacker in the RFL, you usually mention this guy's name. For the Austin Armadillos is Zachary.
Oh, what'd you do now?
Didn't pop up.
We're going for a third belt you're going to skip?
Oh, there you go. I had these guys flipped. It's Zachary Dombrowski. So Zachary Dombrowski coming here at number 58, 128 votes. Like I said, he just is he has been doing it all and being consistent throughout his career. You just don't want to be, you got a game plan against this guy. You got to learn how to wash him out or run away from this dude, because anytime you get anywhere around him, he is just going to be very disruptive, and you just the ultimate captain of your defense.
Yeah, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, 1 interception. That might not blow you away, but he does have 170 tackles this season. I know that you love this guy, Smitty, and for obvious reasons. One of the few bright spots on the Armadillos. Dominating player, and he has been for a very, very long time.
I just wanted to take my time to just mention like what CP just said, and it's true. CP, as soon as we stop talking about the college, it ain't nothing but the coaches and some of the RFL players in here. Everybody else dipped.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine with me.
Yeah.
And we're not playing for college. We're playing for the RFL.
College is cool.
To make a t-shirt.
Time's almost up.
To make a t-shirt, Smitty, can we get a t-shirt that says we ain't playing for college series, we play for the RFL?
I'm definitely going to see if Bees can work something up with that. That would be dope. What we on?
Varying your own product.
Going into, they're still around. We still need the college dudes. But going in number 57 of the RFL Top 100, still on the defense. This is a guy who had a comeback year, because when he first came into the league, he won Defensive Rookie of the Year, and he had another few great seasons after that. Then after that, the guy literally, he just went on 2 years missing of like just being productive, and he was rarely getting sacks. He was rarely being what he used to be as a young player. But then this past year, and hey, we got his coach here right now, Coach Dunn. He
know exactly who you're talking about.
He got the dude back on track, and he was an absolute monster this season, coming in at number 57 at the defensive end position. It's Antonio. Come on now here. Antonio Griggs. Antonio Griggs coming in. I think this is a blank image, so I'm going to just leave that alone. But yeah, Antonio Griggs coming in at 57. I already said all I need to say about him. It was an amazing bounce back year for him coming here. Well deserving to be on this list after that performance.
Yeah, 49 tackles, 14 sacks, and 2 safeties? Are you kidding me? That's incredible. Antonio Griggs, dominating pass rusher. And I'll let Dunn sing his praises for a little bit, but great play.
So here's the thing, like, I don't know what he was before I joined the league. I did hear you a lot throughout the season say that he, was miserable and just had a down year the year before. Did you say he won Defensive Rookie of the Year when he was a
won
rookie?
Defensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year his rookie year back in season 1. The dude was a freaking monster for the first 3 seasons, but season 4 and 5, I don't know what happened to him. That's when he started falling off, but this year it was the real come up.
So I don't know if it had something to do with the schemes. If I switched up playbooks were different, whatever I did. I do know that I try to work in some formation things to try to give him, the best opportunities to succeed. He's, like you said, he's not the best player on my defense. He's right up there. So I do everything I can to put him in the best position possible. And last year he did me right.
Beast guy right there. Now we're going to go back on the offensive side of the ball, talking about some more veterans. Player that was here since season 1, a player whose rest of his career with this team is up in the air and more than likely going to come to an end. But this guy at the quarterback position, you could never count out. And speaking of the Miners, this guy knocked them out off an amazing comeback after it seemed like the Miners kind of had it in the bag. Holden Wolf coming in at 56. Dude's just up there with one of the top quarterbacks in RFL history. 137 votes for him. He still had a great season this past year, and well-deserving to be on this list.
Just over 4,800 yards, 26 touchdowns, 11 picks, 66 completion rate, and a 95 QBR. Definitely one of the top at least 10 quarterbacks in the RFL today, and he's been very consistent over his career. The Black Knights themselves may not have been like the most consistent team, but he's been a quality force in pushing them forward.
And just one thing to add to this before Dunn goes, and I know he knows a lot more about him than I do. This guy, not those stats that Noah just read off, those are a down year. This guy is a baller.
I know, right? It's crazy.
I mean, it was frustrating for those that know what Smitty was talking about. And can I just take a moment here? You don't even give me one player on the list. You don't even give me like 1 minute to feel good about Antonio Griggs. And you come out here and you throw Holden Wolf in my face. Like, I mean, come on. This is malarkey.
He said malarkey. He's serious. He
said anybody use that
malarkey.
vocabulary. Yeah.
You don't use that word for anything.
You're not playing around when you say that.
Those of you that don't know, first round last year in the RFL playoffs, the Miners, yes, we had a 14-point lead late in the fourth quarter, and Holden Wolf led the Black Knights down the field for a touchdown, led them down again for a touchdown, tied the game. As a matter of fact, tied the game with about 25 seconds left in the game after Jason DePape, not DeAndre Russell, Jason DePape made what should have been a game-ending interception, but they called pass interference.
P.I. Bella.
Game goes to overtime, and then I don't even get the ball in overtime. They win the coin toss, and Holden Wolf drives them down the field. And the rest is history, and I'm still a little bit bitter.
No way.
Yes, man.
Hey, nothing left in that cup.
Got all he could out of it. And
man.
Moving on to the next player, I made sure I was about to skip again. But
That's another Black Knight. I'm gonna love it.
This guy broke the tackling record in the RFL season, which I kind of felt like at some point was going to get broken. But this was a guy who just really came out of nowhere, playing for the Houston Gunners. A free agent, just like I said, out of nowhere linebacker coming onto the scene and taking the RFL by storm in his first official season. And Reggie Craig, 140 votes here, coming in at 55. The guy was just a tackling machine, and that's all I could say about him. I'm just looking to see what more he can do, in the future.
Yeah, I have a feeling that this guy probably got a little bit dinged because he's not a name we know, and he's a guy that just showed up. But he did, like you said, break the tackle record with 174. He had 100 of those were assisted tackles, by the way. I thought that was a very interesting thing. 12 TFLs, 5 deflections. This is a great linebacker, and he'll be be in the league for a little bit longer. So I expect him to stay up in this, probably go up a little bit higher in the future. But he'll be right up in here as one of the better linebackers in the game.
Wait a minute here. You said that he had how many tackles total and how many of them were assisted?
100 assisted tackles.
How many total tackles? You know that or no?
174.
I don't know about that. Seems like some piggybacking for some stats there a little bit.
How do you have what's close to 200 total tackles? That's crazy.
Yeah, but I don't know, man.
That's still a lot.
He's just look, watch him running in. Hey, what's your name? Let me get a little bit of that statistic right there, and just tackle him at the
still
end.
to be in on a play of a ball carrier 100 times, that's still getting to the ball. You know what I mean? He's still doing something.
Yeah, we'll give it to him.
That's a lot.
Hey, I'll be honest. It wasn't 2 weeks into AR's campaign as GM of the Gunners, and I was like, hey, what are you going to do with this Reggie Craig guy? Let's talk.
And we're going to move on, still on the defensive side of the ball, at the safety position. Another veteran that has been here, used to be a former Snowhawk, and has helped this team this past season become one of the best secondaries of this past season of the Brooklyn Barons, and that is Hayden Harold. Definitely a feared linebacker. Of course, you had to fear him when he put that $200 million down on the other side, on the other safety. The guy really benefited this year getting interceptions too, off of having Ethan King in the lineup. He really caused a lot of the havoc and stuff like that. And then you saw a lot of quarterbacks, and Bill knows which quarterback gave him the most. But a lot of quarterbacks throwing the ball in this guy's direction, and he just came down with it. Ultimate ball hawk for the Barons.
Yeah, I mean, if you really think about it, this should be the guy that's getting all that money. But 94 tackles, 6 picks, 4 deflections, a great safety back there. I know Roland loves this guy as well. This is one of those guys I don't want to play him ever again, but we have to because that's the rules.
I think Hayden Harold ended up having a really good season because he just had a lot less stress in his life. He had Ethan King. King's like, hey, man, I got so much money right now. I'm going to pay for all of our meals when we're traveling. So he just had a stress-free year and just, balled out, man.
Yeah. I think he's still stressed, though, because he was like, bro, you really going to pay this dude $200 million?
He must have bought him a really good steak or something to make up for it because, Hayden Harold's been doing it, I think, a little bit longer than Ethan King is, and Ethan King just walks all up in here and is like, "Look at me getting all this money."
I'll tell you
because
a steak ain't gonna make up for no $200 million.
Wait, what about a Wagyu steak?
Do you think Harold took his buddy Kumar and bought some White Castle with all that money, or what?
You think? What if Ethan King paid Harold a little something under the table on the side, so maybe he does have a little extra cash?
Nah, he ain't doing that.
Whatever, man.
He's playing pro football. He's got plenty of dough.
Whatever, dude.
Yeah, he getting paid, but he's like, Roland, what you doing, man? But Chase Schilling. Oh my God, said the guy's name. Might as well show him. Chase Schilling is the next guy coming in at 53.
Don't you just tell us his name?
Lucky number 7. Got 2 of them on his jersey. And this guy, another veteran that's been around for the Lancers, has been on this team since the beginning. He even was in on the expansion. When I first expanded the league, he was on the video as one of the top 3 players at that time. So, this is a guy still holding it down, coming in at number 53. Here in his 5th season, going into his 6th in the RFL, and he's just a constant beast, very consistent play, well deserving to be on the list.
The Lancers, they went through a lot this year, but Chase Schilling was still able to dominate at his position. 68 tackles, 14 sacks, forced fumble, touchdown, doing everything that you'd expect from an all-pro edge player.
Lancers have overplayed their position, like their defense, like what we expected their defense to be, I guess I should say, for the last 2 years based off of the secondary they've had. And a big reason is because of that guy right there.
I think the issue the Lancers are going to run into is that they're playing a difficult division. I think the Diablos are really good. I think the Desperados, we saw last year, the Desperados were really good. And I think the Orlando Wizards are going to be better. I think that they could be significantly better this year than they were. Saw Oklahoma City overperform, I guess, throughout most of the season. And I would expect them to take a little bit of a slide backwards this year.
Moving on to number 52. Only two more players left for today. Almost done. We're going back to the Bulls. I talked about how the linebacker core was already vetted before even Jack Brown got there. And this was one of those guys that was one of those household names still hanging around. He's been regressing, but he's still been balling. It's Gabe Stringer of the Brooklyn Bulls. 152 votes. 52 he comes in at. And like I said, I already said all I needed to say. Everyone back in the day, the early first 3 seasons, were really afraid to play the Bulls defense with those linebackers. I mean, all of them were just absolute beasts, heavy hitters, playmakers. And Gabe Stringer, I said, going down, I think he's like in the 70s or something right now. And he is still out there making plays.
Yeah, very comparable numbers to Schilling. The same 68 tackles, one less sack, but this is still with 13. This is still a guy that's very dominant, deserves his spot on the list, and he's a very scary player for them. The Bulls need more players like him to come back into more of a competing way of playing.
Yeah, I can just say that he's an absolute stud. I mean, he's always all over the stat sheet, and for good reason. Just one of those veteran players that you're going to hate to see go eventually as he gets too old to continue playing.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe it was a product of not utilizing him to his strengths. I think Stringer's probably best suited in a 3-4 coming off the edge. He's got really good. He's got 90 power move, 90 finesse move. So really good guy off the edge if they can just figure out a way to maximize skill sets.
Yeah, 3-4. I really like when most of the time, they got him on the edge. I can't remember if he got moved to DN or if he still stayed at linebacker. But when he's off the edge in like a 3-4 or something like that, this guy, he can drop back and make some plays and cover big hits, even if sometimes he can't cover somebody. You're going to get your block knocked off with running into Gabe Stringer. He string you out. But yeah, that's going to be. Now we're going to head into our final player for today's RFL Top 100, and then we'll be halfway through the list. Coming in at 51, going back to Brooklyn, another young star, big year once again, leading into that breakout secondary year, worth the money, I guess, in Roland's eyes. The young guy, Demore Sparks, sparking it up this season on the outside. He did a great job against some very solid receivers this year too. He locked a couple guys up. So and then, like I said, a young talent, and it's going to just continue to get better. And here he is, already at 51 in the RFL Top 100. Thoughts on Demore Sparks?
Another guy that's outplaying the guy that's getting 200 million. But be that as it may, not to everybody on that secondary is very, very good at their job. But almost 90 tackles with 89, 7 picks, 11 deflections, and a touchdown for Demore Sparks. I have him right up there. This is a top 3 corner easily. Dominant player. Hate playing against him, but that's where we're at. So
top 3 for Nolan. Yeah, top 3.
I'm still trying to rebound. I just had sort of a little flashback moment. We're looking at some Barons here, and then Noah over here said 7 picks, and I was just like, I just instantly just went back, and I was like, whoa, that was a bad timing. I just need a second to catch back up here.
Anybody else got anything to say about Sparks? I know you don't, Bill.
7 picks, man. That's some bull, man.
Yeah. Did he get one of those?
Bradley can get out of here. I'm done.
But yeah, so that's it for today's RFL Top 100 in the past, in the podcast. I mean, we've had ourselves a very informational podcast. Of course, like I said, I knew it was going to probably run long. Appreciate you, Coach Dunn, for coming on. I appreciate you, Noah, for coming on to help us out. Looking forward to this week's games once again, just to show the college series, man, is getting pretty lit right now. If you was in a ditch somewhere, not following, keeping up, and you in the top 8 somewhere, you might want to be paying attention this week, because this is really going to help formulate who's going to be in the official top 4, and especially the conference championship games that are going to follow. So, hey, it's your boy Smitty.
A lot of these games got me excited.
Yeah, man. This is all you can be excited about for the college series with the RFL coming up, right?
Yep.
Nobody want to see any regular season games anymore. But anyway, it's your boy Smitty, RFL commissioner, play commentator, along with Bill, Dunn, and Rashier. It's like, nah, Noah. But we'll see you guys tomorrow. Make sure you guys tune in. Clemson versus South Carolina, followed by USC versus Texas. With that being said, we up out of here. Peace.
6 bells, guys.
I don't even know what he said.